We're all.
You guys can leave that.
Okay.
You can say if you want, but you don't have to.
Okay.
There's we got along a bunch of stuff to do, like, you can certainly, you can just do.
Everybody has their packets. Did you want to start off with anything or?
Are we all on and recording and everything?
Mhm.
Okay,
It's not on there because he's got his presentation.
great. Okay, I'll just kick things off. We're here tonight for our second budget workshop for the fiscal year 2025-2026. And we got through most of the budget on Tuesday evening. I think we're just revisiting a couple of other topics. We have the chief and the record director with us this evening. Thank you guys for being here. Where would you like to start?
So if you go to the police budget, which is,
140-1450, not in numeric order.
yeah, 140-1450. And you'll be talking about line 110-20 wages full-time. The police chief is asking for a administrative behavioral health liaison to this budget, so I would like to turn this over to Chief Ruger and have him give you some information about why he's asking for that position.
Good evening.
Good
Thank you
evening.
for having us here or having me here. First thing is, as everybody knows, Erin McGann, our behavioral health liaison right now is currently leaving or has left. Her last day is the 11th of March, but unfortunately she is actually on vacation for her last 2 weeks, so she won't be in the office that often. She said she will check in with us the next couple of weeks. But after that, she is going to be going to the state and we are going to be left without a liaison in town anymore. Sweetser at this point has no idea if they can even fill it. And I'll show you the PowerPoint, but Wells has been asked for one and they unfortunately have been asking for over 6 months and they cannot find a candidate to go into there. So they have to fill theirs before they can fill ours. So we are out, behavioral health liaison who's been, just a major part of this town recently. So. See if it moves here. There we go. The agenda, what I'm kind of going to go over is what is a behavioral health liaison? Why does it benefit the town of South Berwick? What's the impact on the town of South Berwick? What will it cost the town of South Berwick? And then I'll just do a quick summary. Behavioral health liaison or BHL, I'll be using BHL throughout it, so I didn't have to keep typing it throughout this. Most of the time they like to go by BHL. What is a BHL? It's a person who works with law enforcement or residents for the purpose of co-response, crisis intervention, case follow-up, referrals and connection services, as well as police department and community outreach, engagement, training and relationship building activities to increase behavioral health and resiliency, substance abuse awareness and suicide awareness and prevention. Right in front of you, I've already drawn up a job description of what the new position would entail. Also attached is what their duties would be and also what we're looking at to fulfill 40 hours worth of work, which would be very easily with her. To peruse that at your convenience later on if you'd like. We are looking at senior citizen calls for those living alone at times of storms or disasters. The library kind of mentioned that, and we would be more than happy to fulfill that. Where they would call them on if living alone and would just to check on them to make sure they're okay. We want to do a lot of community outreach with her for education and training at the senior center, library, and the SAD 35 school system. So how will this benefit the BHL? Benefit the town of South Berwick? It benefits the town by acting as a bridge between community members experiencing mental health issues and available services, providing crisis intervention, connecting individuals with appropriate treatment options, educating the community on mental health concerns, and collaborating with local agencies to improve overall mental health access and outcomes within the town. It's essentially helping to identify and address mental health needs before they escalate into a crisis. It reduces strain on emergency services and improving quality of life for residents. What's the impact? It impacts the town by improving access to mental health services for residents, particularly those who might not otherwise seek help, by bridging the gap between law enforcement, courts, and behavioral health providers, ultimately leading to a safer and more supportive community environment by identifying and addressing mental health needs early on. And I can say with her being in here, she's been here for 14 months, her calls for service on mental health has gone down because she's been interacting with all these, our normal ones that we used to go to on a various basis. And with her help, she's been guiding them, and getting them the help they need, so we're getting less calls to go deal with situations like that. She is, highly trained. Our officers are mildly trained, as I say, because we're supposed to be well-rounded officers. Unfortunately, we're what I call a jack of all trades. We're trained in a lot of stuff, but not in any particular specialty when it comes to, especially mental health. What will a behavioral health liaison cost? Well, wages would be right around 70,000. Health insurance is 24,930. Main PERS, FMLA, et cetera, 25,686. Total for the position is 120,616. Training, vehicle maintenance and cellular phone will be out of my police budget. I'm gonna impact that and take that right out of my budget to assist in that. But how much is a life in town? Of the lives our current BHL has impacted, can you put a cost to saving one life or two? There are many more she has impacted. Those families alone have commented that she is invaluable. In summary, a new full-time BHL position only benefits the town of South Berwick. Our current BHL, as we all know, has accepted the position of the state, and Sweetser does not have another liaison to fulfill Aaron's position anytime within the near future. Again, as I iterated at the beginning, Wells PD has been on the list for receiving a liaison for over 6 months, and they still cannot fulfill the position from that organization. This new position will enhance the quality of life for all within the boundaries of South Berwick, providing support, training, information, and substance abuse information to all departments and residents. SAD 35 does not have a substance abuse counselor, from what I was told, or a liaison to assist them with their needs. And speaking with their superintendent, they are very interested in having a BHL assist their current counselors. We do have a meeting set up for the next 2 weeks with the superintendent. The cost is minimal for such an invaluable asset to bring to the town of South Berwick. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Bob?
The additional community outreach that you had mentioned, is that stuff that she was doing or just stuff that she wanted to do but didn't really have the
So
capacity?
she was governed by what Sweetser had told her she could do, and a lot of that was not included. She
Okay.
was saying, you can only do this, this, and this, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So
like
we
the
wanted
house
to
calls
do
for the
this.
elderly, that's additional, okay.
Correct.
Would you say, chief, that the behavioral liaison would benefit the police department more, or the citizens are kind of equal, like,
I would say it benefits the citizens more.
The
She is an aid for us.
okay,
Basically, when we get a mental health call, she'll be provided a vehicle that can respond to it. And she's gonna be able to take over those situations for us and then handle it in a more professional standard, with the training and get the people the help they really need.
will the person that could potentially be hired have any sort of a police background? Because if they're gonna be put into what potentially could be an elevated or hostile situation, I would assume they would need to know some basic police maneuvers or like
absolutely.
de-escalation.
So one thing I thought about is I want to put them through the part-time academy. And that's not gonna that'll benefit everybody in town.
Hmm.
But I don't expect this person to be out working the road and stopping cars. This person is gonna be assigned to just do the mental health liaison or behavioral health liaison. We have a yellow flag situation in the state of Maine, which is a mental health, if somebody is contemplating hurting themselves or another, we can actually go through this yellow flag process and take their weapons away for undetermined amount of time until they go to the courts. This person, because they'll be part-time certified, can head up that program. And she can actually step in front of one of the officers, whether they be full-time, whether it be me, and say, look, this person needs to go to the hospital because our training may have said, well, it's wishy-washy. We don't know if we can actually take them into protective custody. She can step in and say, they need to be in protective custody. And then we can assist her if they're non-violent. She can then transport them to the hospital on her own. Then our officers can go about their business within the town here.
And when the liaison is not in the field, like on a call, and they're in the office, just for clarification purposes, the liaison is not a therapist. the liaison is the person that finds you the avenues to get whatever help you need, whether it's mental health, substance abuse health, or just for clarification purposes.
For now,
Okay,
she is getting a master's degree and we're hoping that she is gonna be getting her therapist or counseling services for the next 2 years.
so do you have somebody in mind?
Yes.
You're, okay,
We do.
okay,
I want to make sure this was set up so that there'd be no delay.
gotcha.
Once she, finishes her masters and then is licensed, I would assume that the salary would increase at that point. Do you have any idea what that would look like in 2 years?
I have not considered the rates yet.
Okay.
We'll talk about that when it comes time.
Right, well, that would be negotiable.
Yes.
That's a negotiated thing, we could negotiate with her. With that person.
Yeah.
I know, like, you know, in the military, they probably have this, the shipyard too, they've got lots of resources like that, somebody that knows who to contact, and a lot of times when you're going through a hard time or have a crisis. There's so many resources, it's almost too many resources, you don't really know where to go, it always helps to have somebody that you can go to, one number, you call, this is the problem I'm having, okay, let me help you out, I know who to call. So those services are, super valuable, I know that.
I
they
have
must
it on, I have it on speed dial, I
Yeah.
used it so much, the ladies in that office know me very well for recommendations, and they are
Yeah,
hugely helpful for everything, from alcohol to family issues to. It's amazing what they can do, and like you said, it's very confusing for someone trying to look for that help and that service, they don't know where to go. It's overwhelming, if you're already having a problem, trying to figure out where you need to go for help is overwhelming, so if you have a one-stop that can send you there, it's pivotal to getting people help.
I know, even if there's a website and a portal, like, oh, go here and there's all the resources there, it's still too much, it's still.
Sometimes you just need a
To,
person.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just need a person that cares, that will direct you to where you need to go.
and the specific problem I'm having, okay, I can hook you up with somebody.
And so that, in fact, was the case at one particular point here with us. I was notified by Jen was notified, me and Jen were notified. But one of our department heads or one of our employees was in crisis, at work, was having a moment after a major tragedy in their life. They called for counseling services and it was gonna be at least 2 weeks before they could see any kind of therapist or anything. Once we got that call, we immediately called Chief Ruger. Chief Ruger called Aaron called the employee. Talked to the employee for over 2.5 hours on the phone and got her into counseling the next day.
She couldn't get an appointment for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. And
She was-
virtually,
She was a mess.
It's huge in this day and age.
and Aaron, not only did she provide her that, provided her as a safety net, so to speak, as she came back to work and got back into our system. That, you know, hey, if you have an issue, you're not feeling right during the day, ring my phone, call me, and I'll talk with you. And became a, person that helped her through her problem. So just above all the pieces that it did work, it worked for us when we needed it here for the town, for our employees.
And I think another point well made is that depending on the severity of the mental crisis going on, your average police officer is not trained specifically in that area, so it's something where, you know, there's specific steps that you need to take and things you need to do to help that individual, and it's sometimes the answer is you just gotta take them to custody and take them to the hospital and get some resources that way, but having somebody here in town that can triage that more effectively.
Kind of along that line, so how is this person set up, to be contacted by the public?
So the cell phone that I've already issued out is going to be open to the public for them to call.
So it'll be
That way, if they take the phone calls, it'll be, one-on-one basis, and they're not gonna have to go through dispatch, they're gonna have a direct phone line to her.
okay,
Yeah.
and being housed in the, police department, how does that look as far as, I'm assuming it's not, well, who the heck knows, it might be a drop-in person that just like freaking out or whatever, I don't need to be.
The office we've set up is literally 15 feet from the front door, so they can go right out and meet this person.
Okay, so it's not like. I think it's a great idea. I think it, you know, I think there's benefits there, and I totally agree with what's been said already, you know, when I'm of sound mind right here and now, I can think about things that I'm going to do when it's crazy or when something happens, but when it happens, it's like, oh, everything is in disarray. So I think that that's great to be able to say, all right, I'm dealing with family members or myself with, it's like, okay, this is the number, just like 911 or 411 or whatever 11, if this is the number that I have to call or have it available, and this is the place I can go to. I think that's great. I guess my concern primarily is, I have been impacted by this position personally, right? So making sure that it's known for people to, and is there a initiative or a plan, you know, aside from just, yeah, it's on the website, you know, that's our answer for everything.
We're gonna do, I mean, so whoever this is gonna be, we have National Night Out coming out. That's gonna be a booth setup just for that alone. Facebook, we're gonna reach out on our Facebook page, obviously, and we'll obviously share it to the town. And we're gonna just throw it out there. I mean, we're gonna put it on everything we can. There's already a write-up going to the, you know, after this, we'll talk to the Southburg Reporter. They're already interested to see what we're gonna do now that Aaron's leaving. So, yeah, we'll get it out there without a doubt. Business cards are gonna be made up with a phone number she's gonna be reached by. And we'll definitely put it right on the front sign too. It's gonna be one of the ones that's gonna scroll through.
I think it's good, and from my standpoint, I've never had any real substance abuse issues myself, but I've known people that have and been impacted by their circumstances at times. And myself have had those situations where I'm like, I don't know, this person needs help. I don't necessarily want to be going to the cops about it, right? And so what you're telling me is that this person isn't necessarily plan on having handcuffs after you, when you go meet them. This is a safe place for them, right?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's probably, you probably understand it better than I can. That's where my worry is. You probably see it, the worry and the concern.
Oh, the concern for people to call law enforcement in reference to situations like that, it's always been, that's why there's in my second, or the impact I put in there, people that don't want to seek out help because they don't want to call law enforcement.
Right, yeah.
We'd rather have that person reach out to this mental health or behavioral health liaison. And if she needs help, then she can contact us and we can go with her.
I gotcha.
But for the most part, she can handle a lot, or he can handle a lot of these parts, so, you know, handle these calls on their own.
I don't want to capitalize the conversation, but I have a couple more.
Okay.
So on your, presentation, you had said this position will impact the citizens of within the borders of South Berwick. Can you expound on that a little bit for me? Is that really true, or was this person going to be farmed out to the
No.
LEA?
So right now,
Wells?
I brought it up to the Chiefs one meeting, there's no interest right now in dishing out money, because people have already done their budgets.
Yeah.
And so what I would like to do is come up with 40 hours worth of work, which we were able to do, you'll see it on the like the fourth page there. And she's going to be, primarily, her job is going to be the residents of Southburg.
And it makes sense to me, with my limited knowledge on this, as like you were just saying, knowing and understanding the people is where that gets the most bang for your buck in that. So not necessarily farming people out to just, oh yeah, we got this person. It's not as beneficial at that point in my mind, right?
Correct, I agree with you 100% on that one.
But she would have been available for the incident in North Berwick.
Yes.
If we had somebody.
Yep.
So,
So we had 7 of us up there, so.
right, so that's not in town, but that's one of those isolated incidents where that could have really helped.
Yep. So that's not really farming out at that point. That's just, we call assist on another agency.
Yeah.
You know, we utilize her services along with us while we're out there to, you know, in case there was any kind of trauma that may have to be, you know, services that would have had to been done, so.
And to be honest with you, I felt like Erin while she was here, while I knew that she was available to the public, in my mind, it was, she was not available to the public. I felt like she was more of a service to helping the staff and the police deal with the stuff that you, whatever crazy stuff that you guys see day to day. I don't. I sit at the computer and talk to people all day. You know, you're seeing a lot more craziness.
For the
than I do,
most
so.
part, you were correct. He was given to the police department by Sweetser and governed by their rules on what she can and cannot do. Now we're going to take that narrow-mindedness and we're going to open up the view. And do a wide-eyed view of this whole town. There's more stuff that she's gonna be able to get involved in.
Okay, so that's like a gotcha question. I didn't mean to be.
Mhm.
So I saw benefit in her being there to be able to assist you guys with whatever you're dealing with and coping with whatever. I like the thought of this new person doing you're carving out you guys as well, and right, like, that's not gonna get kicked by the wayside.
Correct. With still gonna be, still gonna be interacting with us. It's gonna be stationary in with us.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. We're gonna be able to bounce ideas off her collar and she's gonna, we give her cases. You know, we go up and say, hey, this person needs a follow-up, and I just had one last week that I was able to give to Erin in order to follow up for me, and she did a great job. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
In regards to the school, how does that end up looking as far as, cost wise, things like that? Is there any?
Wouldn't be able to answer that without the meeting. We have not had the sit-down meeting yet, so I don't know if there's gonna be a cost impact, or if she's just gonna be available for them like anybody else in town to be able to call to go up there and help them.
Right.
I don't know yet until I actually sit down with the superintendent.
Cause in my mind, I see it as a massive benefit, but that also includes 3 other communities inherently.
Right.
Or 2 other communities, right, with Elliott and Rollinsford now being involved with those families, so. I don't see anything bad about it. I appreciate the clarity, that you've given me. I think the one thing that I'd want to be clear for the public, is I wish you hadn't answered Councilor Costello's question. How are we going to go about this process if it's made into a position? How are we going to go about this process and make it look like it was a fair and upright process and hire? That's my concern.
I agree. I feel like
So can I,
we need to talk about this as a resource, not as a person.
Correct.
Yeah.
right. So within the scope of hiring practices, we are an equal opportunity employer in accordance with federal law. But within the codes and charter, where it's a particular instance, if you have a particular person who is trained well and is specifically for something, there's no issue with us, you know, where this person already served here or a person already served here, if somebody served here, it'd be, you know, if we did it to just the outside and I hired your wife, that's a problem. But if we've got somebody who's got past experience here, who was an employee here, bringing them back here is not a problem.
So legalities of it though, will the jobs be posted like officially?
I can't say that until
Oh,
it gets
right,
through
yeah.
the,
Gotcha.
gets through the process. I mean, probably it would be, we would probably post it publicly and legally. But again, if this person applied, then she would have the best credentials, that would be, you know, it's the way it works out.
And if she was to stay with us part-time from now until then, would it benefit to hire somebody that's already working for the town to actually put them in a full-time position?
Totally. I just think we need to, given that we're talking about financials at this point. I think
Yeah,
we need to
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
Stay in our lane and talk about it as a resource, and once we approve it,
Yeah,
then we can.
because hiring comes all under, you know, the auspice of my office, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we treat it fairly and follow the laws, follow the regulations.
In my mind, you know, small-minded, I'll just be like, oh, they created this job for this person that they had in mind. Where I guess you could spin it that way if you wanted to. However, the position was already here. We saw value in the position and so I'm 100% on board. It's just that's the thing that kind of popped in my head. But that's all, I think.
I'm absolutely on board with this, chief. I think that, I learned a lot in your presentation, because I think I kind of just thought that Erin previously had just kind of been hanging out, working with the, I mean, and that sounds like she wasn't doing anything, but like just primarily spending time with the police officers and not, and so I think the plan to kind of bring her more out to the community, partner with the school, I think is fabulous. I'm curious, is there, to your knowledge, is there any other municipalities in Maine or in our area that have something similar?
Mhm.
Okay, just was curious, and I just really want,
Four right around in York County alone.
there are two, you said? Four, okay. And I just want to commend you for pursuing this. I know that that was kind of a sweet deal that kind of happened, became available to us, and I commend you for taking advantage of that and for, you know, upon losing that resource, which is a big bummer, doing this. And I just want to ask, I know you also were interested in an additional police officer, correct? And so I just think that is a significant piece of the chief asked for both the police officer and this resource, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like the police officer has now come off the list because this one has taken a bigger priority. And so I just think that that's another important piece that everyone needs to be aware of too.
I made him pick one or the other. He picked the health.
Your choice says a lot, so.
Once more, I mean, they're both very important to this town, but unfortunately, losing a resource like that weighed over what, including a new police officer would have done, so,
Mhm.
that's why I went to that route.
Since we're talking budget, do you foresee any additional expenses with any kind of office reconfiguration? Like where this person would be in the police department?
Nope,
If they
Just
don't need to
stay-
knock down walls, put up like padded rooms or anything like
nothing.
that?
The only thing I'm adding in there is a computer,
Computer.
and I already had 3 on order, because I do 4 every year. So we're just gonna, instead of putting it where we were gonna put it, we're gonna move it to that office alone. But no, there's no reconfiguring at all.
And then just gonna put my 2 cents in, with the school involvement. I have an immediate concern of overextending this person with the duties if they're hired, because we all know that mental health is an issue across the board, across the state, across the country, wherever you're at, and substance abuse is not far behind. And I feel like with the 8,000 residents that we have in our town, you then add in the school systems. But we, as a community, also have a responsibility for the children in our community. Whether it's through the school system or whether it's through they're in their homes and you get them help, you know, from their homes.
Mhm.
Sorry, I know I owe everybody donuts.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know, I would just, when you have your meeting, I hope that's a concern that's explored about overextending of this
So-
one individual.
I've already discussed that with them. And basically, with the deal with this is they already have counselors there. Erin's there for resource.
Mm.
Where, you know, if she may know information about substance abuse that their counselors may not, they can reach out to her and she can give them the resource. We're not expecting her to go there on a daily basis.
So she would be more of like a resource for the resources at the school.
Correct.
So
Okay.
not a resource directly for the students. I mean, I'm sure in certain scenarios, but like.
There may be situations where, you know, I've offered up for her to, you know, if she'd like to get down there and teach a class. You know, just like the same thing we would do at the community center or at the library or even at our own police department. You know, she's teaching a class for all the officers on the 18th of this month. That is what I want to utilize her for, is get that public outreach out there, let people get to know her, and they're gonna feel comfortable with her, and then they're gonna want to call. It's only gonna expand what we already started.
I think that's kind of cool. Maybe spark some interest in the students and give them a career path that they didn't really know existed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it seems like, I don't wanna speak for, it seems like we have consensus from the council on this ask from the chief, at least at this point. Is there any other information or anything else we?
You probably don't have a number, but you had said that, you don't have to deal with some of your regular, I don't want to say it that way. You don't have to, you're not interacting with people as much as you normally would because Erin was able to kind of nip stuff in the bud and get and kind of identify stuff early. Do you have, and is there Like how
I
many
could-
call, I'm not thinking too much, but
I'm
any amount is good.
But I mean, there's one example, and I'm not gonna give any names, any addresses or anything else, but we have one person that, in town that really needed help. They were afraid to ask for help. And now they were living in a life that resolved staying in, they never ever came out of that house. And now we have, with her interdiction and assistance, she was able to get this person is now, they no longer live in this town, but they're living in a home that's helping them. And he has been so thankful, and the family's been so thankful that those are the kind of invaluable, amounts that you can't even put a price on. It's, that's just one situation. There's many more that she's gone out and helped too, so. And the ones in town here, I mean, the employees alone, it's just invaluable. What else would we have done? Waited 2 weeks, 3 weeks, So.
All set?
Yeah,
So is this an added, that number that you showed, is that
this is already included.
it's already in there? Okay, that.
Correct, okay, it's already in there. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
She supported me, I'll say and support her.
Go team.
Okay, so the next request comes out of the recreation budget, and it's number 160-1620 recreation.
Is that before or after, please?
It should be after the PD.
5 pages.
Thank you.
What was the number, 160 up?
Recreation 160-1620. Ben, you go ahead and lead off on this one.
So this is a 28-hour position
Yep.
that Nikki had asked for. So that it would alleviate her and Alana and work as a team and be able to get more things done in the community. And you do have a handout from Nikki, it's 2 pages, like this.
We'll ask Nikki to go ahead and
Yeah.
tell the council what it is you're asking for and why.
All right, so I included, this is what we started doing these last year for the town report. Instead of doing a write-up, kind of just going over highlights and, a little more visual way. And, so I included this just because it does show how much growth we've had in recreation over the last couple of years. A lot of our programs, we're seeing, we used to get about 75 people up the egg hunt. We get about 130 now. Our soccer program was around about 100 people. A few years ago, we have about, we had 180 registrations last year. So the growth in the community and the participation we're having in the program is huge, which has been wonderful. And we've been doing a lot to try to keep up with it. We do a lot with a few employees. I'm full-time, and then Alana is 24 hours and Mona is 18 hours. She usually works more like 20, but anything additional, anything over the 18 is paid for out of the senior center budget. And then we have a few other part-time seasonal employees. I do utilize those sometimes outside of, if they were the Powderhouse crew chiefs oftentimes have no problems coming over and helping with coverage at the soccer field if I need it. Our cook will do building coverage every now and then if we run, we just ran into it a couple months ago where recreation had a ski trip. Mona had a senior center trip, happened on the same day. We weren't leaving for a ski trip till 2 o'clock, but I needed building coverage for a couple hours. Our cook came in to do that for us. So, we try to be very flexible. We all work well together as a team. I'm fortunate enough to have some of those seasonal part-time employees who are willing to help us out when we need it. So just going to the next page, that was this is sort of a high level. I do have a detailed job description, like David included. I can get that to you guys. I can follow up with that after. But this is sort of a high level description of what I'm looking to do. So I'm looking for another program coordinator. The description, this person would work together with the team to help us plan, organize, advertise, implement, and facilitate programming and events in the community for all ages. So this person would be supporting Alana's programming. She does the youth programming. I'm still doing a lot of the adult programming. And then this person would sort of take the adult programming off my plate and then also assist Alana with the youth programming, and then we all pitch in for the senior programming here and there because the seniors are at the community center all the time, so you can't really work at the rec department without getting to know them well. So this person would be sort of, you know, have their hands in all the programming, and own the adult programming. They would also be configuring and managing our online registration system, which is part of being part of the program coordinating. Assisting with the management of social media, which as we all know can be more consuming than it sounds. Providing the additional coverage for events, to enabling us to keep up with the growth that we've had. And then supporting the community center building coverage during open hours. I'd also be looking our seniors, the seniors we have a walking class every morning at 9 o'clock that's very well attended. Currently, the building is only open Monday through Thursday. So I'm looking to open the building for them for a couple hours Friday morning, for the walking class consistently. And this position would enable us to do that. The seniors are, especially when we have Monday holidays, it really bothers them when they go 4 days without their walking class. So, that would just be another added benefit to the community. And then also was part of this position, they would be networking with other rec departments within the Maine Parks and Rec Association, which is a very valuable association for, the rec department. Some of the benefits to the community, you know, it would give us the capacity to continue with the growth while maintaining our current status. You know, like I said, we've had a lot of growth and participation, and we've expanded a lot of our programming. We've kind of maxed out what we can do. So this would allow us to continue with some of the growth and then also maintaining what we have right now. So we'd increase the programming. It would enable us to engage in some of the community collaborations right now. I've been contacted by Central School as well as Berwick Academy on some collaborations that we haven't quite been able to formalize just because you know, we don't have the capacity to do those. So another person would enable us to take advantage of some of these collaborations and pursue them. We'd also be able to increase some of our community exposure. We're overextended. I shouldn't necessarily say over, but we're quite extended at a lot of times. And so we're not able to always be at some of the community events that we'd like to be at. So this position would also enable us to do that. And we'd be able to broaden our activities and events in the community. It would also enable us to provide adequate employee coverage at all of our recreation locations when we need to. You know, a lot of these, we have events at different locations that overlap. You know, we've got the community center that we're responsible for as well as the fields. We have events going on, activities going on at the schools, a lot of our after-school enrichment programs. We also have Powder House Hill, which has been, you know, last year we were open 1 day, but Powder House last night was our 26th open shift that we had. And we've sold almost 2,100 tickets. So it's been a bang up year at Powder House, but you know, that fluctuates depending on the season. So we felt that this year, but you know, last year not as much. But it is one of the locations that we are responsible for, as well as, you know, responsibilities at Town Hall, and then we have our off-site trip. So so having this person would just give us a little more flexibility and kind of make sure that we have the coverage we need at all those locations when we need it. So and that's what we're looking to do. So as you can see, this you know, would add a lot of value to the community as well as the department.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
Anyone have any questions or?
The program speaks for itself.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like just all things Southwick Recreation are such a pillar of this town and this community. And I mean, the growth that we've seen, and like every time you talk through with the department meetings, some of the activities and how many people, I just continue to be surprised by how many people are, you know, still continue to be, this sounds terrible, but like are so involved in those activities. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, this is an important piece of Southwick, right? So I'm in.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
So when Nikki brought this to us, we were looking at budget numbers. But the reason that we passed this through the budget and brought it this far So I try to stop over at the rec department once a week and see Nikki, check in, see how things are doing. And she's always flying somewhere. She's on, if she's even there, if she's not, she's running down the hall with her hair on fire. I'll be there in a minute, blah, blah, blah. And I see it. And I also see the level during the summer as well as the winter. I see her at Powder House Hill on the weekends. I see her everywhere, which means she's working a lot, doing a lot. And that's good for the community and that's great for us. But as an administrator, I also have to look at the other side of it too. She's also the manager administrator. She has to do the budgets, the bills. She has to keep the wheels going. She has to do the authorizations and all the paperwork. And she's fights between management duties and field programs. That's why she's asking for a field program person. The cautious piece of this is that I recognize, I've been in jobs where I've gotten to the point where I just came in and said, I'm done. I'm not doing anything. I don't care. I got burned out. I don't want to burn her out because she's done such a great job. Her staff has done a great job. She's really, engaged in the community, you can see by the numbers. So that's why I moved this up to your level because of the participation that she's added to the programs, the job she's done. And she won't be able to maintain this level without falling or stumbling at some point. I don't want that for the recreation because by then it'll be too late.
And, can I have a little bit of clarification on, the partnership, right? So like, when I don't have any kids that take part in any of the ball fields, I just drive by them. So when I drive by, I see the SBREL and I'm like, oh, that's who does all these activities. How does that work and jive with the town, right? So I'm saying, no, that's the recreation, but I'm seeing banners for that. How are they different? How are they the same? How do they work together? I'm not sure clear on that.
So we have a lot of those are the youth organizations, like we have softball, that's our SBRELL organization. We have Marshwood Youth Baseball, we have Marshwood Youth Lacrosse, we have Marshwood Travel Soccer. And when you see them over at Aggie, they're all using the fields. I work with those groups to make sure, they have what they need. They come to us with a request, they let us know scheduling, and what their needs might be. We do the field maintenance on the fields up to a certain point, and then if they need additional, we work with them. Some of it's their responsibility, some of it we'll help them out with, depending on the request. So those organizations, a lot of them are doing, it's more of a travel team, so it's a little more of a commitment than what the rec department would offer. And they're often playing other organizations that are similarly structured, youth organizations, they're up in Yarmouth or Falmouth or Scarborough playing teams up there. Their teams are down here playing our teams. So they're structured with a little more intensity. The practices are more often, so it's a lot of it, is taking those kids to the next level. Softball and baseball do have in-house programs where they're playing teams that are playing each other. And those are just, we're thankful to have those because those really aren't programs that we would be able to manage with the size department we have.
Sure.
So you do have some communities, some rec departments do run those programs themselves. And then others, are similarly structured where they have, those are youth organizations run by volunteers. They're under like a Babe Ruth or Maine Youth Lacrosse actually like governs the Marshwood Youth Lacrosse rules, takes care of the refs and helps them with their scheduling. Same with travel soccer. There's a Maine soccer organization.
So those over and above what we
Yeah.
offer as the town
Yeah.
offering, they work with you to
Yep.
manage the field, the
Yep.
use and things like that.
Yeah.
All that.
And we've really worked to strengthen those relationships over the last few years and make sure that, they know that we support them and, we see how they're supporting us and providing those activities to our kids.
And that's similar with Powder House and the Sobo Central involvement.
Powder House is town, so when Powder House is open, we always have 4 people on for every shift. 3 of those are volunteers. And then we actually have 9 people who are town employees and they're seasonal employees. One of them is on site whenever Powder House is open. And they're like the responsible, employee that's on site there. And then Powder House, everything like those tickets, when we're selling tickets, that ticket money goes into a town revenue account that goes back into the hill, replaces the rope when the rope needs replacing, we'll buy engine parts with it when we need engine parts. When the groomer's down. So the money from those tickets goes back into the hill to support the general operations of the hill, the basic operations of the hill. Where Sobo Central comes in is for the concessions. So that's where, all the concessions, the apparel, the swag that they sell, that all goes through the Sobo Central account.
Okay.
So it's,
The partnership stuff is great, but in my mind, it gets jumbled as to how what the town starts and ends and stuff, so that's
with
why.
Sobo Central, certainly, yeah, but and Sobo Central, I think the money from, those concessions and the apparel can go back into Hill as well. Depending on what the need is, I think. Trying to think of an example of something, like if there's something that's a little bit more of like a want versus a need, Sobo Central, that's where the concessions, the revenue from the concessions. Yeah.
Great.
Baseball and softball have standalone budgets. On fund this year, you're probably gonna see softball come back again. What the rec department provides is fantastic. Over and above that, those 2 programs buy the uniform, buy the equipment, buy the gear, buy the bases. For all the kids, and again, we fluctuated at one point. We had 10 teams playing in the softball league between mini minors, minors and majors. Nikki could not manage that with the amount of coaches you have and the amount of kids.
Yeah.
And if we did, the price tag for the town to be paying for that would be astronomical.
Yeah.
So it's all banners you see and everything else is all going towards that. They're all 501c, Little League covers them, Cal Ripken covers the baseball side. And Sproul, unfortunately, we lost the vote, so it is no longer Sproul. It is
That's
now
right.
Marshwood softball something.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I love Sproul. They know that, I was the vote that keeps Sproul, but it does a lot for the kid. Again, we've seen. I coached there, I don't know, 17 years, still part of the program. I've seen hundreds of girls go through that I still see, and now I see girls that I coached when they were 9, coaching their girls in that program. I mean, it's awesome, it's incredible. And this town is, again, between the rec department and all the volunteers, it's unbelievable what we do for our kids.
And each of those organizations has a board, softball, baseball, lacrosse, travel soccer, they all have, of anywhere from 5 to 12 people on those boards that's running those organizations. Yep.
No, I think I appreciate the clarity on it, because like I said, I haven't had direct involvement with those programs, so I appreciate that, and I also agree, looking at what is it, $200,000 budget?
It's a bargain for what we get for this
Exactly.
community.
Well, thank you.
It really is.
I mean, just that, and then managing the relationships with those other groups and things like that, I mean, the list of sponsors is,
Yeah, the
Is,
community, yeah,
pretty big,
Yeah.
so.
It's a full-time job
volunteers.
managing that.
Yeah.
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 And the volunteers, I mean, we have an amazing group of volunteers and
Mm.
we're very lucky, very fortunate for that.
No, thank you, and thanks for the clarity.
So again, the one thing that I, talked to the council about, again, I go back to, I worked in other communities, managed other communities. I can't pay Chief Ruger and Nikki enough to care about the departments the way they do. Every week, they have great successes, great ideas, great thoughts for the community. And I can only pay them the salary I can pay them. But I can tell you, I've gone to the transfer station on Saturday and swung into Powder House Hill and seen Nikki there. And I know she had her hours in on Thursday and she's just still there doing it. Chief Ruger calls me after hours to make sure that something's going down with the police department. I can't pay them enough to care as much as they do about their jobs. So that's the one thing from the administration side I can tell you. We have good department heads, good staff.
Um, not sure if this is the time for it, but, you know, when was it? It was only a couple of years ago that didn't we make your position full-time a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, and from that to this growth is quite a bit. Do we have a goal? You have a goal? Is it just grow the darn thing, or is it grow with a plan, right? So that way we as a council can say, yeah, in 2030, this is gonna need to be a $500,000 budget.
It's grown with a plan. So the plan is to come to the staffing and development. So Nikki has started that. And the first conversation we had when we put Nikki full-time was, you know, we'll get you some more part-time help, get you started there and see where that goes. And if that's successful, which it has been, you can see by the numbers, then we'll move up to get more additional help and continue to grow the programs and have programs more successful. And I've managed bigger rec departments than what this is, with less kids actually. And so where this will end up at some point, probably not now, so this would be the next step. And then in a couple of years from now, probably one of those, or two of those positions would move up to full-time. And so where the problem or the cup tips over is when we have so many kids, so many programs. For instance, like when all the Marshwood programs, that someday if you get all those kids and we have to have local programs, then it tips over. The management piece where she goes from becoming, right now, she's a dual role person. She works operations and administration. Someday, if we have so many kids in the programs, you're gonna end up,
Administration's gonna be a
Right.
full-time job.
she ends up flipping to just administration and operations is the full-time people under her. So right now, we're living in a growth spurt where it's growing and you're seeing it. This is part of it. And yeah, probably by 2030, I would anticipate if we continue to build new homes, 35 units in a subdivision at one time, brings an estimated another 150 people to the community, that impacts the school system. People are moving here because they have their little piece of earth and they have a nice school system. She's gonna need to be that, it'll expand and grow to it.
Right.
So, you know, and so we come to a fork in the road, right? And that fork in the road is, we don't expand those programs, she burns out, she leaves, and we start all over again. Or we invest in recreation a little bit and keep growing it at snail's pace as best we can and afford to manage the growth of the program.
Right, and that's exactly where my concern is, right, is too much of a good thing. Basically, you know, if we have success in this area, if we have success in really everything on this group of papers, is because we have our community that people want to be in and the community that is taking part in this community. So, you know, if nobody lived here, we wouldn't need to plow the roads as much, you know, it gets down to even that. So I say, you know, great, you know, I'm all for it. The thing that scares me is next year I'm going to be asked again, or the council will be asked again for another $40,000. And then the next year, the council is going to be asked for another $40,000. And it's going to be up to, you know, that's what we need to keep in mind, because it's going to keep going up. And it's at some point, growing is great. But at some point, do we need to say, we're comfortable here, let's take a breath, you know, but not this year. I'm fine with that, you know.
So in other communities that we saw recreation not grow, we saw kids on the street creating vandalism. We put money into our parks that were vandalized, our street signs that were vandalized, because recreation it is costly. Everything we do is costly. The taxes are an investment in our community too. And the investment is that it helps keep the kids off the street, you know, that's one of those things. So I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where, you know,
Yeah,
We
I'm
did-
not trying to talk, extremes here. I mean, honestly, I don't think $40,000 that will have vandalism all over our town. But I do think that it's a point of, this is a great program, it's a great resource, it's just gonna keep growing. Yet everything else is gonna keep growing too. That's where my hesitation is like, oh, great, it's just, I don't know how I say no to it. It's awesome stuff, so, but.
But I mean, I think I hear you on like the growth thing, but I think, Nikki, like we're adding this one additional position to allow, take a little bit of burden off of you to be able to do more of that administrative stuff, to give us a little bit of wiggle room to like expand or better support certain things, but it's not this like it doesn't seem like there's this like free for all plan and we're just gonna like endlessly expand, because there's gonna become a capacity to who, even with this new person, we're gonna reach a capacity to what level of recreational things we can actually support, and so then we have to have the conversation again, and if the numbers support it and things continue to go up, then that's a different story, but I hear what you're saying, and I also don't see anything in this that automatically makes me assume that there's gonna be an ask for an additional 50,000 next year for the
No,
same thing,
It wouldn't be next year, Madam Chair, it'd be, probably in a couple, 4 or 5 years, as the programs tend to grow.
So it depends too, it's peaks and valleys. I mean, you look at any sports program and we're flush this year, got 250 kids. And 8 years from now, because, well, they didn't have as many girls as boys, now we're down to 70
Yeah.
there. It's gonna ebb and flow. The good part is, if you look at everything is up, there's more community involvement, there's more volunteers, there's more everything. Means our programs are working, it means people are getting out. I look at the numbers at the library and it astounds me how many people are going to the library in this day and age. I love it, because I love the library, but I can't believe how many people still go to the library. And you look at that, I mean, it's getting better every year, so we're gonna hit a wall where we're gonna slow down for a little while, because again, we only have so many children in the community. Maybe the seniors go up, because we're all getting older and we're going to senior activities. But I agree with you, Jeff, I wouldn't wanna be out trying to bring everybody in from other communities, but I think right now we're on a good spot. And in 3 or 4 years, that's gonna be your all's problem, not mine, so carry on the good work.
And just to clarify for me, I don't want anybody to get me wrong, like, I
No,
could see this, if Nikki came and said, this needs to be at 500,000, and with this paper right here, I don't know how I would be like, give me a break, Nikki, I'd be like, why aren't we at 500,000,
Yeah.
it's justified.
Yeah.
It really is, so, yeah, well, thank you.
And we are trying to find that sweet spot with programming. We know that, we can't necessarily meet all the, the full demand, because people will always want more, there'll always be new things, but, we are trying to we'd like to find a spot where, that place where we're in a sweet spot and we're like, okay, like this is, and we're always trying new programming, and this does where this, boomed, and then this, it's like, oh, wow, this didn't work, or this was great in the beginning, and now it's sort of, it's ebbing, and, we're rolling with that and being flexible with that as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's well worth the money.
Thank you.
So, real quick. 1985, were you here?
Me?
Yeah,
I was in high school.
well, that's not my problem, that's your problem. But 1985. Doing the history of some of the South Berwick town, South Berwick councils at the time had some opportunities in front of them when they redid the codes and charter. And Jack Caracas has he told me, there was then the decision of the council 35, 40 years ago to keep South Berwick as a residential community. They did not want business, they want pro-business. Having business come here would have helped offset the tax rate as we grow and develop, but without the business growth that we don't have, 1 or 2 businesses doesn't help. We need big businesses. So they kept all the businesses out, said, we just want to grow homes. When you just grow homes, the tax burden is solely on your residential people. And then when you make a nice community with nice schools and a nice police department and nice town people, there's no other options. There's only one place to do that. We generate as much revenue coming in as we can, but long before you folks ever sat here, 30, 40 years ago, they were giving the task to you of how to manage this today with having a lovely, nice community. Don't forget that we have lowered the mill rate the last 3 years, but we can't control the economy, so we have mustered that. But we have a residential living community that is a nice community. People wanna move here. So put a moratorium on
With their
house
children.
building with their children. And unfortunately, there's no other place to provide the services that to get it anywhere else. In the normal world, you try to have a base of 50-60% businesses and 45% housing. We're not. We have 90% housing and 10% business. It's how the community was built 40 years ago.
I moved 8 miles to raise 3 kids.
So, and I'm just saying. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for pointing out how old I am, by the way. Appreciate that.
Your plan.
No, I just said, I just high school.
Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us tonight. Yeah, oh yeah, Melissa,
Have a good night.
hold on.
Chief, new cruises are in at Quirk and Hollowell, just. in
Hold on,
case
hold
you're
on,
wondering.
before we pivot,
I,
Melissa has some questions.
So
they're up in Augusta,
Nikki, I
Yeah,
think
but,
there's no
Silver.
question at all, the respect that we have for you and your program and all that you do for the community. I am definitely having a struggle with looking at your budget, like the school budget of, it's for the kids, how can we say no? Like, that's what's going through my head, like, I'm gonna be completely honest. I do also realize that the South Berwick Rec is more than just kids. It is the adults and the seniors, and my concern is being like Oprah all the time, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you know? And with the uncertain economy that we're in right now, with federal funding we might not be getting, with the economy still being kind of crappy, with expenses going up because of tariffs that are being imposed. I know, I'm just not sure if this is the year for growth for this program. And I say that with a heavy heart because I do respect this program and all that everybody involved does. So I'm still like, is this the year to try to do a little bit more growth? Or is this a year that we be like, all right, let's take a minute, work with what we have. And then when things straighten out nationally, locally, or whatever, then we think about building this program. That's where I'm coming from.
That's why we have these meetings.
Yeah.
If I can take a minute, just to sing the praises of the rec department a little bit, which we've all kind of talked about already. My interactions have been like through some of the after-school programs, soccer,
You were at night.
Easter egg hunt, some other things, and Tim, I have a hard time believing that you ever find an opportunity to sit down with Nikki, because anytime you go to one of those events, she's there. The soccer field this year was absolute bedlam. I don't know how they controlled the chaos and organized all that. It was remarkable, to be quite honest, because I was managing one team, or 2 teams actually. And that was hard enough. They were managing this whole program. My brother, just as a comparison, my brother lives in South Somersworth, and he has got kids as well. And they stopped playing soccer through the rec department because he said there's 3 teams, and they just play alternating the other teams every other week. So, you're playing the same kids every week. He was flabbergasted that we, both of my teams this year had an 8-week schedule, didn't even play all the other teams in their division. Like, that's how many teams that we had. Almost 300 registrations, the way that they organized that. And I think that the programs are really, focused on the kids outside, for the youth programs, right? But to me, the community aspect of that does permeate to the adults, because there's so many people that I recognize from going to those events, right? If I wasn't taking my kids to soccer or the Easter egg hunt or school concerts and things like that, I'd be going to work, I'd be coming home, I'd be in my little bubble, but I'm kind of forced to go to those events because of my kid, not forced to, but like I'm there because of my kids, but I'm interacting with other people and families in the district. And then I go somewhere else, I recognize, and now I have a conversation with somebody. It does help build community outside of the benefit that we're getting for the kids. And my concern right now is not so much, the expense or growing too fast. It's more that we have a rec director right now that is wearing all of the hats and is doing everything. Our next rec director might look very closely at their job description and say, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't need to be out there doing all this stuff. And so we have somebody, not that that's wrong, right? Like, that's what you're paid to do, but it sounds like Nikki's covering up for some areas where she's putting Band-Aids over gunshot wounds, basically. Like, there's issues that within the department that if we didn't have somebody dedicated like Nikki kind of covering over those areas, they would be failing. We wouldn't be able to provide these services in the community. So I'm more worried that the next person that sits in that chair is a little bit more strict about their schedule and things like that. And then we wind up having to dial services back or dial back that community aspect of this program. So I also, we don't really know what the next year is going to look like. We don't know what the next couple of years is going to look like. But I think that the community aspect of what the rec department brings to South Berwick is something that's unique to the rec department that I don't think any other department really fills that void the way that the rec department does. In terms of providing places for the community to come together, begrudgingly or not, parents don't, they don't always want to go out and take their kids to soccer or baseball or all that stuff. But I think just from a community perspective, it's so valuable to be able to have that and not have to commit to multiple days a week for a travel team. That's also much more expensive too. I mean, my kids aren't doing travel yet. We're willing they won't, but it's great to have the rec department for that cheaper, less committed option for all that experience for the kids. That's just my two cents.
And I'm sorry. Melissa's very consistent over the last couple of years in saying that she wants the time to talk about this stuff. So I assume I'm taking this time, that this is what we need to talk about, right?
Go for it.
I don't want to belabor it. I just want to, so I guess my question is, I feel like Melissa and I are sort of on the same mindset. We see the tremendous value. And not to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you were saying what I was trying to say, which is maybe we don't need to keep biggering and biggering. Maybe we say, we got a good thing and we support and not keep trying for the next. That's everywhere in town, really. I 100% hearing, I don't want to burn you out. I'm in a current job where I'm doing similar like you. It's like, I don't know how much I can do anymore with work. Let's say that this position wasn't approved. In my mind, I'm not saying keep going. I'm saying what would suffer that would need to have to come off of your stuff? What are the certain things that would get
What would have
cut
to come
back
off your
I'm sorry?
What would have to come off your plate?
Yeah, not out of like threat, but just out of your well-being. Is there anything that would be, I know it's not just a nice
Yeah.
surgical cut,
And it's not, I'll be honest, and it's not because my heart's in it too,
Yeah.
so that's hard to say, but, I think I think where I'd like to see us with a little more community engagement at some of the community events, I think, that would definitely have to sort of take a backseat, just because there are other organizations in the community that are carrying that. But it's always nice for recreation to be there too at those events that I feel like are, so it's, even though the rec department isn't putting it on, it's still a rec event in the community.
And
I'd
I
have to
don't
go
wanna put you on the
through,
spot.
yeah,
I'm just,
no.
it's just that's also,
No.
but likewise, right, like. If this 40 and this position goes through. To hear Melissa and I out. Will this position be totally full if we said, we don't want you guys to expand for a year or two? We want you to stay status quo with rec. Is this position a part-time position? If we said, hold rec where it is? Or is it a full-time position that is needed just to keep the status quo?
I mean, we could do it with this part-time position that we're asking for. We could definitely keep the status quo. Or keep, you know, where we are now. We'd be able to maintain where we are now. And it would give us a little room to expand a little bit. In those areas. So the position that's being proposed right now is part-time. It is
Okay, I
28
thought it was
hours.
full-time.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it's
it is a
part-time.
28-hour position.
28 hours
Yeah.
a week, part-time.
Okay, so this position
Yeah.
would help us to, would be full anyway, would be a part-time position, they'll be busy, just staying the same. And then it would be a little bit of a reach to kind of put some effort in and
Yeah.
do expanding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, in those areas that we'd like to expand. Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That,
And things like you were talking about, like the building coverage piece.
I was
of-
just gonna get.
Yeah,
that.
like, because I think that there's times where like the community center isn't able to be open right now, depending on staffing. I remember a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
I had said, I was like, if you need somebody at the building, like, I can.
That's right.
You know, like, there's been a number of times where, not a number, but like a decent number of times where like that is a situation where everyone's spread fairly thin to where like the community center isn't even available as a resource because we don't have the staffing. So,
Right.
I just want to make sure everyone understands that point too, that that's part of the position.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's why it's more, you know, an additional part-time position versus increasing those other positions that are existing right now, because it's actually another body that would be really helpful. To help with the events that we have, you know, the Strawberry Run, which, Bill, you've been there to experience that, but you know, all the events that we have. As the participation has grown, the need for, you know, additional employees is huge. And volunteers are wonderful, but if there's a difference between the volunteer that comes in, you know, a day before and kind of gets the rundown of what's been going on versus the employees that have been part of the team putting those events on together since the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. And I didn't mean to say, let's talk about it, then I'll be the only one that's talking, but I feel like, I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity on the details of it all, you know? I don't know if they, I don't have anything else.
I just think, my concern is that someone like Nikki, if you say, or if we were to say, well, we're not gonna give you this position, so scale back. She's not gonna scale back. She's not the kind of person that's gonna scale back. It'll just stay the way that it is. And to his point, how long can that go on? So I think the question that you asked about, you know, is there enough work for somebody to come in where we're at right now to fill up those 28 hours? I think the answer is yes, and then that would also provide some additional capacity, but if we said, we're not giving this position. I don't think any of this is gonna change because of who we have in that director spot right now.
And one of the
But, you know,
things.
The thing that keeps running through my head is the Lorax. They got going and they just chopped all the trees down in the forest. That's not what we want to be. That's not sustainable. So just because Nikki's willing to do that does not mean that it's okay. Right? That we need to be doing it in a structured, methodical manner. And we, as the people that are funding it and approving the funding, need to be on board with that. You know what I mean? Because I 100% build it up. But at some point, we need to all be on the mesh together, it's all, you know what I mean?
While I agree, financially, we gotta look at the big point. And I'm usually the one that brings this up every year. Cutting $42,000 is gonna do exactly what for us? In the course of the big thing, cutting $42,000 isn't gonna change our tax rate. If we were talking a couple 100,000, maybe, but 42,000, and this is. I don't like paying the taxes I pay now, I like paying what I paid 10 years ago, or 20 years ago when I bought my house. But in the big picture, for what we get from the program, if we cut out $42,000. You're not even gonna see it in our tax rate. And that's how I look at certain things in this budget. If we're gonna cut, we need to cut big. cutting $42,000, they're not even gonna see the blip. It's not even gonna be a penny on anybody by the time we got done.
Yet it will
I-
add
it's-
value to the community and the department.
And it's,
too.
and it's not worth possibly stagnating a program by
has
slowing
great
it
momentum.
down for something we're not gonna see. If we wanna look at that, we need to go back and look at bigger cuts, not a small.
Well, that's where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
is this is a piece of my $100,000 cuts throughout the budget, you know, that's what, it's like, this is not, I agree 100%, this isn't gonna save a budget or whatnot, it's a piece of all of it that we need to say, are we willing to buy into $40,000 here, 50,000, 100,000, 60,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I 100% agree. That's what makes it hard, because we have the same conversation every darn year, it's like, I can't, it's not even worth that, you know what I mean, so.
Yep.
So Nikki, the bottom line is stop overachieving. You're making our job harder. That's it, plain and simple.
Only other thing I just wanted to say on this is like, first of all, I love this, just like all of
Oh,
the
thank
data and stuff, but I think that this also gives us a way to, because we do this every year, we can sort of revisit and say, okay, we made this change last year, we added a 24-hour position, and, you know, has that allowed us to just maintain the numbers, increase the numbers, et cetera? And like, and if it doesn't, then that's a conversation we can have, but at this point, I mean, we are just seeing growth year over year. It's time to add the position to support it, and if we level out, then we can talk about that and have that conversation when the time comes. But I think you've got a great track record of keeping track of all this data that supports all of that, and we can just continue to keep an eye on it. Okay,
And
great.
just my last thing, I hope that my conversation here is just nothing against you or the work that you're doing, and it's not me not. I mean, like I've said, I'm supportive of spending the money, I'm just asking the questions, get the clarity on it. I don't want you to take it as, oh no, we're fine with Nikki suffering, you know what I mean? It's not that, it's just trying to get some better in my head to where I need to be, I guess. right?
Yeah,
So-
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have a budget to manage. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear. I think we're all, well, I'll speak just for myself, very, very grateful.
Well, thank you. And I am looking to, you know, I'd like to get to the rec department to a point where I feel like it's supporting the community, where I do feel like we're almost there, where there's those, you know, what the community needs and what that demand is, and, you know, the wants and the versus the needs, you know, so, I mean, I understand what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, we could have the Cadillac version, but, you know, I'm just looking to get the Honda.
Great. Anything else that you guys wanted to cover with tonight?
Well,
Well, more tonight, but from a.
not fair for rec, I think we're good, so
Okay.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thanks for your time
Yeah.
and the support. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time tonight. Yep.
We're back in.
Take a brief break, bio break.
Give me a computer.
It says it's charging, and I'm at 55%. Oh, it's 57, it's going up.
Done. But for the theory, there. Not bad. To move the mill rate $1 up or down, is a 10% charge of your total budget, so the budget's 10 million, you need to cut $1 million to move it down. So you gotta do $1 million time. You did all of it, $1. So representing that, say 50 cents, 500,000. That's. I don't. Just. It doesn't make sense. Fine. So I would hear.
That's what I was.
They're shutting down all the civilian parts. So you have to be wearing. And they're probably doing the same thing over at the shipyard.
Well, they have,
Go with
they
that.
also shut.
Yeah.
They
I,
shut up all of our.
okay, I was just making sure that I'm like.
I can't buy nothing else.
Yeah.
The only way to get all those parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright,
I work in the contract.
Yes.
these are the new handouts that you have.
Okay,
Okay, so which one?
So the first one I have on top is the TIF budget. Mallory, I think you had asked for that. So I actually put this together today because typically we don't put the TIF budget together until after the budget's been finalized because the numbers are shifting a little bit. CIP will affect some of this, the rest of it will change slightly, but the salaries are there. The utilities, 15% for fire is something new that's there. The CIP in depth, the way we have the budget now, I have that in as full CIP if we put it all back at 100%. So that could shift. But this is a ballpark picture. This is also adding a full-time assistant for planning in economic development. This also has the half of the town hall bond. It has additional library debt that it didn't have before that DeCarlo and I found that will fall under this. And also the utilities for the portion of the fire building. So those are the big portions that are making it go up that $281,000.
okay, so the 664,000 for FY 26 is basically what is above and beyond our total budget in terms of expenses, above and beyond the budget we worked through Tuesday.
Correct.
But it's not money we have to raise by taxpayers because it's already in the
Right.
TIF account.
That is correct.
Okay. Just a general tip question with the recent amendment change where we can now use TIF funds to pay for the bond payment.
Mhm.
Is that like, what are the rules around that? Is it like we can use 50% of whatever balance?
Up
Or-
to 50%, as long as it doesn't exceed 15% of the value of your TIF.
Okay,
And the value of our TIF is millions and millions and millions, like
Okay.
64 million.
okay,
So we are well within the means of not going over that threshold.
got it. Okay, thank you. And the bond payment for the town hall is in the debt line item?
Correct.
Okay.
Which in this case is 50%. This year will be 122,500.
Thank you for pulling this together
course.
earlier than usual.
So for Mike, so 200. So tell me what this is again, like.
This is the money-
$664,000 that is coming out of the tip.
Correct.
For our FY
For-
26 budget.
So that would be the economic developer, his assistant, a portion of the salaries that you see, portion of my salary, portion of Tim's salary, the assessor, the code enforcement officer, only the people who touch and work within the realm of those properties.
So any of those places, Tuesday, where in the normal budget, you said like X% from TIF. This is kind of smushing all of that together in one view,
Okay.
all of those percentages.
Yes, as well as the operating budget, a rough estimate of the operating budget for the planning and economic development department as well.
What's our current TIF balance-ish?
I thought you might ask that.
Wonderful.
So the transit TIF has right now $1,449,000. Of that, 553,000 is earmarked. We have 500,000 for the traffic light project.
Okay.
Leaving a balance available today of $896,000 of money that is not earmarked. Last year, or this current year that we're in, the amount that got put in there was $861,000. So I anticipate that plus a little bit more going into that account. Then we have the Pumpkin Town account,
Mhm.
which that one has a balance of $2,016,000. Of that, $1,048,000 is earmarked, $1 million of that is the traffic light.
Okay.
Leaving an available balance of $968,000. Last year, $727,000 went into that, so I anticipate that plus a little bit more going in July.
Great.
So currently, right now, we're at about 1.7 million after expenses between our two tips.
And,
So-
I'm sorry,
No, go right ahead.
more than we need aside for the traffic lights, we'll be able to do additional
Yep.
projects in between.
That, whatever you just were reading from, can you just share that with us at some point?
Every month when you get your TIF summary,
That's in there.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So understand this right here is a 600,000. That's exactly why we created the TIFs. The TIFs are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're allowing us to do operating and capital expenses without impacting the capital budget and the expense budget by funding these projects. That's why we do TIFs. That's what the sole purpose of them behind them is to reinvest in our community and allow us to do funding projects that we wouldn't normally be able to do, because without that, that 664,000 would be in the expense budget
times 3.
times 3.
Because we get to keep every dollar of the TIF that we collect, whereas in the general taxation, we keep 30 cents and give away 70 cents. So it would have cost triple for that 600,000 that you're seeing that's in that TIF. So we're saving the taxpayers' dollars and using them locally and not giving them away.
So even like not even factoring the funny TIF math, like the 3 times thing you're talking about, this is like 6% of our overall budget that we're. I mean, well, that's not, the math isn't totally correct, roughly 6-ish, we'll say, percent of our overall budget that we're not having to
Ask the
ask the
taxpayers for.
taxpayers for.
Correct.
But then when you factor in the TIF. Weird math.
Yeah.
Complicated math piece, then that's even more than that.
That
That's
is
like
correct.
almost pushing 15-20% of our
Yes.
overall budget that we're able to.
Right.
This is, all right, that's what TIFs do.
Any other questions on that piece?
But just for clarification, like the money that we're putting towards the light, the money that we're putting towards the town hall, those are not taxable assets to the town. So we're putting money from the TIF into non-taxable assets, so in 30 years, when the TIF is expired, that's not gonna be a benefit to the town anymore, right? It's not, the tax dollars we don't tax for the town hall.
Right.
So that's not income to the TIF,
Correct.
right? So we're taking money from the TIF, which we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
But the TIF is meant to be putting it into economic development of the town, so when the TIF is gone, we have more taxable.
Mhm.
You know,
Right,
so
and the
that's what
town looks
my
better.
concern is
Yeah.
for the future, but it is a savior for us right now.
Yes. The second sheet that you have, Jeff, this was your question, to separate out the wage adjustments versus the 3% COLA for most staff. The merit raises, which is a sliding scale, and then the 3.5% is only the police union. So the first step downs in blue is just those. I did give a breakdown of where the wage adjustments are. 5,000 for the clerk's office, 29,700 for the fire. He went through, Nick is very detail oriented when he goes through this. He takes into account everyone's years of service, how many certifications they have, what they are qualified to do. And he looked at the industry standards and came up with a wage adjustment of that for his staff.
So what's the percentage raise that you guys are giving to your employees? That
3%. 3% cost of living.
So
The first,
3% plus cost of living, so 5.9.
No,
so the
No,
first
3%.
column here is the first column, wage adjustments. This is situations where we looked at neighboring towns to say, how do we compare to other people and where do we need to make adjustments to level with neighboring communities, correct?
Correct.
Then the next column is where we applied the 3% cost of living increase.
Okay,
So Jen has broken it out into different buckets for us.
Right,
so it's really not what I asked for actually, because what I was looking for was to understand the percent raises that were being given. The wage adjustment in my mind is not,
So-
is not a guarantee. We haven't guaranteed that. So what is the percent increases that have happened over and above the 2.9? Everybody's gonna get the 2.9 or the 3% cost of living. And then this wage adjustments that we're calling it now, it's a raise.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So if we use the clerk's office as an example,
Mhm.
Yep.
5122.
Mhm.
Does that 5122, so did we go through the exercise to say, okay, we're looking at our clerk's office positions, neighboring communities are charging this amount, we're gonna take that and then we're gonna add 3% on top of that?
so I pulled out the 3% first.
Okay,
That's in only the raise of 3%. Above and beyond is the wage adjustment, which is in a separate column.
no, I'm not, so
The-
just using a specific example in the example of the clerk's case. Did we say I'm making up numbers, $20 an hour, so we're gonna bring our clerks up to $20 an hour? And then we're gonna add the 3% in addition to, or did we just do the leveling in those cases and not take into account the 3%?
Nope, okay, so we take the current salary they're making right now, we add 3% cost of living across the board. What you're making today, you get 3%.
Mhm.
Then, based on that
That number.
number is, then from there, we do a wage adjustment based on what we see in the outside world.
Okay,
Because so if you're making $20 an hour and Jeff's making $30 an hour doing the same job, I give you the 3% raise, I haven't hit it right yet, I gotta do a wage adjustment to get you up there.
mhm,
So that's the wage adjustments. Not everybody gets a wage adjustment. We check all the departments and we see where we're having trouble maintaining staff, retaining people, and or where the salaries are too close. Hypothetically, police lieutenant, there was a sergeant making more than the police lieutenant. Doesn't make sense,
mhm.
right? So you gotta kind of adjust something.
That's listed in there.
So with the clerk's case, we went through and said, okay, add the 3%, and that equates to whatever hourly rate.
And it was still a little.
And it was still below,
Right.
and then, okay, but then I think what Jeff, what we're like trying to. Like in that clerk's example, where we're essentially adding both, where we're applying the 3%. And then making wage adjustments, is that
Right.
fair that you're looking to see of the 5122 for the clerk's office? What portion of that was because of the 3% cost of living increase? And what portion of the 5122 in the clerk's example was due to wage adjustment?
Right,
Is that what you're-
yes, I'm
Okay.
not, I don't look at it as a wage adjustment, I look at it as an additional raise. And so I'm asking what the additional raise is, or what the total raise is. Semantic be what it is, that's what it is, it's a pay raise. So it's not cost of living, it's,
So if I may, Councilman, and with all due respect, I disagree. It's not a pay raise. It is a pay raise and they're gonna get more money. But it's a pay raise for retention of the employee to keep them, to pay for the employee for the work that they're going to do, the quality of work they're doing. So that because if I don't pay them, if we don't up their pay and we're not competitive, we don't have to be at the top of the pile, but at least be competitive. Then as we have, they keep going through they keep leaving and then we have to pay the money to train them again, pay the overtime for that. And it just starts a cycle all over. So the wage adjustments, I see them as the necessary evil of retaining staff. 3% is everybody gets what the code charter talks about, cost of living. And there is a merit raise program in the code and charter that we went to and we kept it 50 cents, 75 cents, or $1. Now, you can amend any of that as the council, certainly. But
But I really can't because I'm not getting the information that I need, right?
Well,
You guys
so,
are-
so
you
Jeff,
guys-
I think what we're trying to work through, I don't think it's super clear what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, because
That's what I'm trying to kind of guide the conversation to make sure that there's clarity among everyone in this group, what it is you're looking.
yeah,
for.
I guess I'm not
following.
understanding
Well,
what you're looking.
the reason
You're
why you're not
the wages of
understanding it
people.
is because you're getting hung up on why you wanna give them the extra raise. And whether you don't like the way I'm saying it is not the point. The point is, it's the 3% is the cost of living.
Okay,
And then you guys have chosen to give in whoever extra money,
okay,
other money. What's that percentage that increases it? Cause if it's me, if I get 3% raise, I'm like, oh, that's a 3% raise.
Do you want to know by person or by department?
Well, I just asked the question based off of this stuff. That's why I was wondering like, how is it breaking out?
It's a very big spreadsheet.
I feel like, if I'm following you, Jeff, I think like what you're saying is like, if we talk about this at a department level, like, or rather,
It's not,
I don't
I'm
know
not
if
trying to single people out. I was just
Yeah.
wondering like, who got a 6% raise and who are we giving people 6-7% raises? Or are we giving people 3% raises?
Depends who they are and what they make. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
It 100% does. So the clerk's office is getting 51.22 in a wage adjustment, right? So everybody's got their 3%.
Yes.
On top of the 3% raise, we are proposing to spend another $5,100 for the clerk's department in retention bonuses, if you want to look at it that way. Or it's a retention pay raise, not a bonus. So, but that's gonna depend on what you make right now and what your position makes. So the head clerk might be making $4 less an hour than surrounding communities, so they might pay her $3 more. The assistant clerk might be closer, so they might only be paying her $2 more, right?
Correct.
So there is not a set percentage on this. It's based on the person's salary. So people are gonna get more depending on what they make versus others. That's the confusing part of this,
Right.
right?
It took me a very long time to even get to this,
Mhm.
because I had every person, some people work 32 hours, some are 34, some are 28. Some don't work 40 hours, 52 weeks a year. So I tried doing the straight 40 across the thing, and I'm like, this took me a long time to pull
You
together, to
can't-
separate everything out,
so,
but I can do whatever you
yeah,
need to
what is
see
it
it.
exactly you want us to get you?
or you're wanting to understand what is what is the percent increase year over year that someone is seeing, that a particular department is seeing and from a salary perspective. Like factoring in the 3% and the wage adjustments, as it's called here. Does, if,
Can't do that.
no, but so if you take,
Just from a
Be very
department.
skewed.
just from a department perspective of like, for the clerk's office, last year's number for, and I just keep using the clerk's office
It's
just as
fine.
an example, but last year's number for the clerk's office salaries was this. The number we're proposing is this. What are the steps in between for that one? There's the 3% that's added, that we can do the math on that, whatever the rate was last year, we're adding 3%. And then what is, like, if it's possible, I think. And I'm just trying to make sure that Jeff, we're understanding what you're looking for. Like, I feel like we're looking to understand for the clerk's office in that example,
But I think,
what chunk of it is, what chunk of the increase that is being proposed is the 3% and what chunk is the wage increases and what is the total increase?
The wage increase is right there.
No, I,
well,
That's clear.
I
It's
broke it up by
51.22. That's after the 3%. So
Correct.
that's the amount they're doing in wage increase, period. It's 51.22.
so if you want,
That's how much more they're paying the clerk's department. Period.
Above the 3%.
Take the 3% right out. They wanna give the clerk's department $5,100 more this year to operate than last year in wages.
but we have never, I think the point, like. It's like we're taking two steps, we're taking two steps at once, we're adding the 3% and adding the wage increases, so like. If. Breaking it out somehow to say, if we just applied the wage and if we just applied the cost of living, this is what would be. then anything else above that, the math then is should be the 5,000. Is that, and I'm trying to help everyone understand, I'm not needing
I
this
think
level of detail, I'm
The
trying to
answers in
help.
The original spreadsheet, you can see the percent difference, or it's not broken out by a percentage for each individual line, but in the sheet we had that we were looking at last,
Tuesday.
on
Mhm.
Tuesday, shows the difference, and then, you can work out the percentage there, and that includes the 3% for everybody, and then the 5,100 for the clerk's office on top of that. So, so if we're looking at a department level, which is what we already did on Tuesday, you kind of have that already broken out. If you want to look at an individual level, I think that sounds makes sense.
No, I mean.
We'll get you whatever you need.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not for any, I mean, this is helpful.
You wanna see like, we have a huge spreadsheet, pages and pages, like every employee with their wage and then, the current wage, current salary per hour. And then, we looked at each one of those. And then the first thing we did, we factored in at 3%, then we did the assessments for each position that we thought was, some we know of, transfer station supervisor, we know was an issue.
And that was a big one, and that's listed separately. isn't it?
So do you want us to extract those for you?
Well,
And
when we were going through it the other day, I was looking at it saying, and my understanding was that it was everybody. Everybody was getting some sort of wage adjustment.
No.
So I was like, okay, so.
Oh, no, so let me, and I apologize for that, let me try to explain it again. So what we did was, the first thing we took, according with the code and charter, says we go with the cost of living with the Northeast Division of Kohler, so it was 2.9, so we went with 3%. So it's 3% across the board for every employee, okay? Then, from there, we did the merit raise program of up to $1 based on your merit, on your raise, because that's in the code and charter as well, that we've never paid attention to. PD, we did 3.5% because we can't by contract do anything more than, I can't give them anything more than a contract raise, so to compensate for the merit program, we did 3.5 of PD across the board. So that's what you see. After, so take the first column for a minute and kind of draw a line down in between the first column and all the other three columns were how we got to the pay scales, okay? After that was done, we went down through did a market analysis of each position regionally based on York County and our town size, and took each position and said, okay, does this fit? Yeah, okay, that's pretty close. Couple thousand within, yeah, that one. We looked at everybody. We have fire chief, police chief. We looked at finance directors. We looked at code enforcement planners, blah, blah, blah. And we went down through each one and picked out the ones that we said, and not all of them, but just the ones that were so far off, we said, this is way off. This could result in, and the first thing we saw was the clerk's office, the window people, whatever. Then Nick, when he came in, he said, he had done his study and he said, the call firefighters need to go up. They're not, he said, a lot of our call firefighters making 14, 15, $16 an hour, and all the other towns around us paying 20, 21, 22 for call firefighters. So he did his adjustment. The only ones that got the wage adjustments are the ones that you see on the left. Police lieutenant and animal control, because the police lieutenant, a sergeant made more than the police lieutenant last year, and that's upside down. So we had to bump his rate up. The transfer station, we gotta do something with the director because we gotta make that full-time and pay it. Because we've had, since I've been here, the transfer station has plagued me as an operational issue. And we need a good person there to manage and stay, and that's only gonna come with funding. And then the library, we did an assessment, realized our library, that the library people were kind of short. That's it, that's for adjustments, not everybody gets an adjustment. So the pay wage adjustments are because we did a market analysis on every position and picked out which those we felt needed it. There were others that needed to come up, but we didn't do it this year. We only picked the ones with the highest priority. So there are people who are still standing here saying, Tim, You know, Public Works is paying, you know, and Berwick is paying another $2 more now than we're getting for driving trucks. I know, but I can't bring everybody up at once. You know, so there were other positions, so only the ones in the wage adjustment column got the wage adjustment. Everybody got column 2 and 3. Column 4 is for PD only.
Just the union.
Does that help at all? Is that?
Yeah, that explains this a little bit better, because I was
Okay,
like, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at, so yeah.
So we have a big spreadsheet that we can give you every employee's pay, obviously, you come in and look and see what it would present, what it would come up to be that, but your eyes bug out of your head after a while, but what we could do about, so doing it by department, it shows up in here. That's why we put on the bottom salary changes. So you see, if you take a department paid, right? We try to break it out to show you by department, salary changes. So hypothetically, if you go right now, if you pick up the recreation department, okay? There's no wage adjustments in the recreation department. We didn't adjust the wages. They're asking for another person for 24 hours, but there's no wage adjustment. If you look at the library, there's wage adjustments plus COLA, plus their 25 or their 50 cent or the 75 cent or
Potential merit.
merit rates.
Yeah.
The only one that's 3.5% to compensate for that was PD, so. I don't know if that helps. We'll get you whatever, we'll try to get you whatever you need for this, so that you can,
I find that helpful. I thought, like I said, from my understanding, I thought it was everything. And so I was like, okay, so you should be able to figure out, okay, this number
Every
minus
person was
3%
No, no.
is
No.
this, and now I can say, okay, person X didn't get a 3% raise plus a wage adjustment plus another.
No,
blah,
no,
blah, blah,
they-
blah,
they did
blah.
not.
It was a 7.5%.
so the column 2 and 3 hits everybody. Cause everybody got an evaluation and everybody gets a 3% cost of living. Except for column 4, which is the PD. So if you wanna write on the column 4, that's PD.
Yeah.
And that's by labor contract. So. There were, like I said, for the wage adjustments, there were 3 or 4 other department employees that came in and asked for raises or said, we need a wage adjustment, and we said not this year. So we tried to prioritize only the ones that we felt could necessarily are dire straits.
Right.
Something that, you know,
So no, I mean, this is clear to me. I didn't think my question was as complicated as it was, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Unless anyone else would like to see something different, I think that's fine. But what I gained from this conversation is that, again, we have more raises and wage adjustments coming at us next year, which, you know, between the regular 3% raise of 100,000, almost another 100,000 with the merit, and then almost another 100,000 in wage adjustments, $300,000 in salaries is being given.
proposed.
Right.
You have the right to amend it.
Yeah.
You have the right as a council to amend it. That's,
And then, and I understand the justification of it all, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, and
that's what I'm looking at and seeing, $300,000 in wages. And then we could basically probably plan on that again next year, as we adjust for the people that haven't gotten adjusted this year, right?
Payroll is over $4 million.
Hmm.
So $4 million is what we were at before. So when you add the 300,000.
so to help, I don't know if this helps, but if you wanna make a footnote, there are only five out of the 18 departments or whatever we have, all the departments we have, there are only 5 that got a wage adjustment.
Mhm.
And not everybody in those departments did, so hypothetically, police department, only one person got a wage adjustment, or 2, the ACO and the lieutenant. Okay, so not everybody.
Yeah.
Fire, not everybody, Nick didn't get a wage adjustment, but the call firefighters did. So that's that. The transfer station, not everybody got a wage adjustment. We're just doing a wage adjustment for the director so I can fill that position. And so that's, I don't know if this helps with that.
I think it was really good for us to have this conversation. I think like the reality is like Jeff, what you're saying is like, we are in proposing this budget is about $300,000 of salary increases. And we are living in a tough place where I feel like just the economy in general is in a tough spot, and I think it's very important for us to be able to, so if we're feeling, this is feeling particularly pokey to you guys, I think it's really important that we be able to very clearly articulate how this comes together and that there were wage adjustments for some departments and others, so we're just trying to understand.
Of course.
And we wanna make it understandable, we wanna make it transparent, if you don't understand it, the public's not gonna understand, we don't want that. We want you to understand, we wanna be transparent, we're not here to hide anything.
Right now, only 79,000 of that technically we have control over without changing the charter.
Yeah, only the wage.
Because we're gonna give it 3%, and we signed on to the merit raises in the charter. So realistically, out of that 300,000, the only thing we could do without a charter change is knock out $79,000.
Oh, the other council, you can do whatever you want. but-
No,
And in my opinion-
to jump to the quick, we gotta give our employees a 3% cost of living. You have to.
Well, here, yeah, I suppose, no, you could, I
No,
suppose,
you don't, but
but you could say, you know, there are towns out there giving 0 increases this year. You know, and you see those towns and the people are, you know, bailing left and right. That's just,
I'm of the opinion that I feel like this additional $80,000 to level set with other towns, just for the retention aspect, I think is so incredibly important, like I talked about when I went with Public Works to go plowing, and like how all it would take is for us to lose a couple of those employees, and our entire little ecosystem is now off kilter, and I think that investing in our employees, I think, is incredibly important, and if we have people who want to stay in South Berwick, we should be able to give them a way to be able to stay, because I have to imagine we have a lot of employees that given how South Berwick is run, and I think the positive atmosphere that we have, like, if they were to jump ship, it would be financially driven. It would not be because of work environment or anything like that. I mean, Sanford, we have 2 officers we stole from Sanford because we paid more.
so anything you need or you want, I mean, we'll give you, I'm just trying to understand what it is you want, cause we'll give you whatever, you know. So. I mean, I don't want you to think that I was disagreeing with you on getting the information, it makes it, I just wanna make sure you understand, there's only 5 departments getting a wage adjustment, and out of those 5 departments, not every employee is, there's only single employees usually in those departments.
Yeah.
So there wasn't one department, I don't even believe, or except for the library, we hit across the board for everybody?
All 4 of them, yes.
Yeah, all 4 of them were way under. So, you know, and to be truthful, we had a conversation with the library director. I asked him why he keeps applying for other jobs, because he's applied for other jobs.
Mhm.
And Lee's done a great job at the library, and he told us it's strictly a financial issue. So that tells me, you know, and plus we did the assessment, you know, so.
You get the data to back it up.
With a lot of
Doing it to be a nice guy.
a lot of work goes into the salary stuff. We spend hours and hours and hours trying to be as fair as we can. Cause just trying to be as fair as we can equitably across the board, and we live in 2 worlds. We live in trying to cut. And, you know, trust me, there's not an open checkbook here where every employee got what they wanted. We cut. And so between that and looking to see what other people are doing, so you could say, listen, Tim, we're only gonna do a 2.5 cost of living raise, no merit raises this year, and PD will get to 3.5 and no wage adjustments. You could say that, and I'll have to implement it, and if that's what you take down me, that's what it is. But then I'm left with trying to fill those spots as we move forward.
Right.
That's all.
I haven't been here for any previous years. Are there wage adjustments every year, or is this something that we kind of fell behind and so now we're trying to catch back up?
Oh, really?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
We started it a couple years ago, we've done, in the 10 years, going on 11, I've been here, we've had some small ones, we started 2 years ago with bringing everybody up to getting close, because we were way out of the box.
Yeah, we were.
We did it when we hired Tim, looking at what we were paying our town manager and looking around what everybody else is paying, we're still under
Yeah.
some communities with what we pay Tim. And it's just trying to get us, not, again, not even, not ahead, or barely break even, not get ahead. But again, it's the cost of doing business with a dwindling workforce. And I hate to say it, but I see it every day. It's the cost of doing business with a dwindling workforce. You have to offer them something. They have a great work environment. We're not offering to pay them $50 more than they're making in Elliott an hour, and we're offering to bring them somewhat close to what their peers are making in the next town. And again, we're gonna obviously have another budget meeting, because we're gonna have to talk, if we really wanna look at cuts and dropping the mill rate. Even if we cut that out, we're still a lot of money away from making any difference right now. Cause that cut out, if we took out that 79 and we took out the rec part-time, that's $111,000 in savings. We need $1 million to make $1 saving. So $900,000 still short in cuts.
So on the $10 million budget, the rough rule of thumb, to change the mill rate a dollar up or down is 10% cut. So you're gonna have to, in order to change, so you figure 500,000 would be a 50-cent cut, $1 million would be $1 cut.
So we're still 400,000 short.
And, just, that's a hypothetical, it's not direct into numbers, so I can't get into the, I don't have all the pieces of the mill rate right now to know where it would go up or down. I don't have that, I gotta wait and we gotta get closer.
So, I don't expect an exact number from you, Tim, off the top of your head. With the merit raises, approximately how many of our employees would you say that you gave the full dollar to? Cause you could, for a merit raise, it could have been 50 cents, 75 cents, or $1.
We have, most of them got $1, because most of them are pretty good employees.
And then my other question is, according to all of our spreadsheets, the little yellow box that has the salary changes total in them. I went and I totaled all of the salary changes by department, and it equaled a little over $400,000. This sheet here for the wages is only adding up to a little over $300,000. So I'm wondering where that other $100,000 of salary changes are. Mhm.
Is that the new positions? Cause
Yeah, I mean, I think
the part-time.
Yes, it'd be the additional positions for it, the part-time rec person, the full-time, crisis prevention.
yeah,
And 3 hours for Teddy at the library. So those are in there, but I didn't include them because they're new positions.
So they
So
would,
there's a
they
lot
would
of
be in the
stuff.
yellow.
there's a lot of stuff basically in those salary line items and salary and wages line items. It's merit increases, it's 3% increases, it's wage adjustments, it's new positions, all of that. So it's, so that exercise, trying to add them all up is never gonna add up to what, they're not, it's not apples to apples, basically, the two things that
Well,
we're.
there's a lot of processes in play, but
Yeah.
one thing I could tell you, we're true and honest to the core. We account for every penny, we would not do anything if,
I'm not trying
No,
to mislead you
and
in
I
any
was
way.
making sure there wasn't an oversight, like, I'm not saying that the information is not correct.
That's a good question.
Just
Mhm.
from my, if any
oh. okay. But
non-mathematical
you're not
person
saying
like
anything that we're
myself.
not being honest with
Yeah,
the council, correct?
I'm sorry.
So
No,
I
You didn't say, you're not insinuating we're not being honest with you.
Oh, God, no. No,
Okay.
I think the reality is you guys have been like living and breathing this for the last like 2 months. They probably have a lot of this, are dreaming about a lot of this stuff and all of the process that you went through to get to this, and we were not part of that. So we're just trying to
Ask away,
Yeah.
ask away, that's what we're
just
here for.
understand the.
And we
pieces how
want,
got
we need to make it transparent for you so that the taxpayer can understand it.
Right.
So we're trying, so if you see that stuff, but it's just, yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is if some non-mathematical citizen is like myself.
Yeah.
Took this spreadsheet, just added up a column and saw, and of the salary changes, added, and then looked at this sheet that explains the salary and they don't add up. There needs to be an explanation,
Yeah.
that's all.
Absolutely, maybe the other column should have been new positions.
Okay.
Yep, and I didn't think of that.
Yep.
Okay.
And I do wanna thank Jen, cause she spent since Tuesday, she's been day and a half hunkered down on her computer getting numbers put together, so she's done that while we've had to run the other stuff.
The rest of the times I have meetings with Tim.
Yeah, so, any more questions on the salary, Jeff, is that, can we do anything better to make it clearer for you?
Does
or-
anybody want a more detailed breakdown in any way?
I'm strictly just thinking about like jumping ahead to the budget meeting in May and kind of, I think like kind of how, that short little presentation that I had put together last year, I thought that was helpful. And so I think I'm just like kind of looking at this from that perspective of like, how do I succinctly tell this story to, you know, so all of that to say, I might have some additional questions once we
problem.
get there of like wiring that stuff out. I think I feel comfortable being able to like explain and articulate what happened here. I think putting it on a slide and being able to like tell the story will get there when we get there.
Absolutely, no problem.
So I have a request of the council. Going through, my job is to recommend a budget to you, the total budget, and also to recommend cuts. So here's what I would tell you. If you're looking to make further reductions in the budget, I would ask that you would first cut the positions we don't have yet, and that would be the two that were asked for tonight. Don't cut a current position, because it'll have a current impact on that. And I would ask you to cut those two first, that would give you 160 some odd thousand. Next, I would recommend that, I would ask that before you cut any bonuses or any extra pay for any employees, cut my salary increase, which is just 3% in a dollar per hour. Cut mine. Give me I want to be cut first. I don't want any employees cut without me getting it first. So cut me first. Not that that's gonna save a ton of money, but that's my request. Second from that, I want to present to you, and this is just an informational piece. I got thinking about a question about what Jeff had said last meeting. And, I went back and looked at. It's all the same, but she's going to copy multiple. These are the foreclosures since 2015 in our town. So this becomes. Bit of information I think we need to take a look at. They're all the same. Don just.
Oh, it's
copied
the
them all.
packet of the same thing.
Yeah, she just copied the same. She
Got it.
didn't understand what I want. So. Essentially, this shows you the foreclosure rate. So in 2015, there was 0, 2016, there were actually 3. When I got here, there were 4 that were outstanding. And of those 4, what had happened was in previous administration, they didn't follow up, they didn't do anything, so the people had been living in the houses, as we talked about. So we arranged payment programs and got those resolved and got those taken care of. Nobody lost their house. In 2020, because of COVID, there was 3, we worked through them. In 2021, it was 1, and it was 8 acres of land, so it wasn't a house. So no one's lost their home here. It's been property mostly, and then from you notice my time here, 2022 to 2024. You notice there are no foreclosures. We've lowered the mill rate. I can't control the inflation, I can't control the valuation of homes went up, I can't control that. But on the stuff we could do, the town council, town manager, the staff, we have kept people from being foreclosed on, worked with them. I'm not saying there aren't people out there that's having a tough time. I have a tough time sometimes, you know? But I wanna make sure I dispel any rumors that, you know, cause I've heard this 3 or 4 times, that, you know, it's hard for people to, I get it. But for us, we're trying to keep it and do a good job and be good stewards of the money. And make sure that we lower the mill rates and make sure that we account for every dime and make sure we spend it right. And make sure that, so I know other towns, I hear other towns talk about how many calls they get from their citizens during the winter time for public works issues. I got one this year. And it was from Melissa, no. So, again, that states the point of, we're not getting flooded with calls. So we have good customer service, which I think that's the business we're in, you know? I just want to point that out. And then the last thing I think we have for you is if you would ask for, Madam Chair, I think you'd ask for this.
Yes.
You wanna
The
go
last
back?
page, the
Yes.
last page.
So the options start with the one that you had on Tuesday, which was the one where we had done the cuts with the CIP and then we had added EMS. So this, I took out without the town hall renovation to make it easier to follow. So the top half, which is in the green, the top section, I did two scenarios. No EMS, adding back the CIP cuts at 100%, no EMS, adding back the cuts at 50%. In purple, 900,000 coming from undesignated.
That would give you either a 5.99% increase or with the town hall renovation, or 5.46 increase with the town hall renovation bond payment.
And that's with 100% or 50% of the CIP cuts put back in.
What, repeat that, please?
Mallory had wanted to see if we took the CIP cuts that Tim and I had originally done
Yep.
and put them back in.
Just like kind of like, how does that change the overall percent increase?
And then just below that with the green, with the gray lines is the same scenario, but taking $1 million out of undesignated. You see how it reduces it about 1% on each line.
So there you go,
Right,
right?
yeah, it's
Yep.
right there, the formula's there.
We have to.
Cut
move it
$1 million
$1
to save
to
it.
change it, I mean.
Yep. And then below the salmon colored line is adding EMS in the fire setup and adding back the CIP cuts. In two scenarios, adding back the CIP cuts at 100% and 50%. In the purple again is taking the 900,000 out of undesignated. 8.82 or 8.29. The last scenario on the bottom is again adding EMS and fire setup with CIP cuts at putting back at 100% what Tim and I had cut, or putting back 50% at the $1 million coming out of undesignated at 7.83 or 7.2.
Okay, and then when on Tuesday, if we added EMS and kept all of the CIP cuts you guys proposed, then I'm looking back at the document from Tuesday.
Yep.
So then that becomes in the $900,000 undesignated scenario, that's 7.75.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just.
Yep.
And then if we did $1 million, that would be
6.67.
6.76.
So there's your 10% of the growth factor of that budget number. So again, neither. They're, you know, I could tell you Elliot's at, I think, 3.2% this year. And you know, and because he had some extra money, they didn't use any road bond,
They had a lot of carryovers in
a lot of
Elliott.
carryover,
So they were
$800,000
able to keep their
worth of carryovers, otherwise than that.
increase.
Mike Sullivan said his budget probably would have been up about 5 or 6%, so we're not far off adding in the fire piece.
Fire and a town hall bond.
Mhm.
and the town.
It's a lot of new dollars that we're putting in there.
So it's 8:15, do you wanna continue on and have further discussions, or do you wanna wait?
Can I just say one thing? I want to make sure that this
Sure, yeah,
sounds
yeah,
correct.
absolutely. Whatever you wanna do.
So. I'm organizing my thoughts. If we move forward with the EMS proposal and we make the cuts to CIP, full cuts to CIP, that's a 7.83% increase.
Mhm.
If we do the same thing, but don't make the cuts to CIP in the same scenario, that only changes the percent increase.
8.82.
And it would be the opposite. It would make it less, wouldn't it?
Hang on,
Okay,
hang
so
on.
if we,
Yeah, I think you got it backwards, so if
if we did EMS plus the CIP cuts. And I'm just gonna use I'll use $1 million as just like this example, that is 7.83%.
correct,
or sorry, no,
No,
sorry,
6.7.
7.83% is keeping the CIP.
Keeping
Keep-
all the CIP and adding the fire rescue piece in, that's 7.83.
And if we cut the CIP, then that becomes the 6.76.
With a million, correct?
Okay, okay, so, thank you, that's what I kind of wanted to get to, was like. How much in terms of the total percentage is the CIP cuts, like as a lever, so if we kept CIP versus didn't, it's essentially 1 percentage point. Right,
It's 109,000. But there,
Again, 1 percentage point, yep.
Yep.
Exactly right. So. The other day, we talked about last Tuesday, 900,000 versus a million, you said people get ugly with 900,000. However, this might be the one time to ask for the million because of the increase. So remember, we were talking a lot less numbers if you take this stuff out. We were down to 3.71% or 3.93 or 4.92. The normal budget stuff. This might be the one year where we say, listen, we've gotta do the EMSPs. We've gotta fix this and make this for future years to come. So this is that one time where we ask for the million to help.
I'm not dead set against asking for a million, I'll ask for a million too.
I was gonna
I
say
don't
1.5.
care,
I don't think we're gonna get pushback on
That
that.
doesn't matter to me.
What's that?
I don't think people are gonna, I think they might be kind of like, oh, a million, but I don't think that people are gonna push back on us using money that we have to help them with their taxes.
right,
Right, that's kind of what, so to speak. We've been stacking money away for this project, town hall project, and because we knew there are other things boiling up, and we knew someday we were gonna need firefighters and EMS people, police officers. There's a purpose for the rainy day fund, that's why it's there.
Like I said, I don't have an issue asking for it at all, no. It was just a history point.
Yeah.
We've always stayed under it because it's been easier. But you're adding a town hall, you're adding a full-time EMS. We're gonna be saving money by getting the full-time EMS down the road and currently. It's an easy sell. It was just a history of,
Yep.
but like I said, I have zero issues asking for it, especially if it's gonna lower the percentage points.
right.
Because again, if we really wanna cut, if we really wanna make a difference and make it better for taxes, we have to cut $1 million out of the $10 million budget you just gave us. And I don't know how we're gonna do that without losing services.
You'll lose it.
We have to, because there's no place else to lose it, $1 million out of that budget.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
And so, let's play that for a minute. You hypothetically say to me, Tim, you're the manager, we're amending the budget gross amount, cut $1 million. Okay. Well, we have to have essential services, right? We have to have plow trucks, we have to have fire, police. What's considered non-essential in municipal government?
Library,
Transfer station.
Library, transfer,
Recreation.
transfer station, but you don't want trash all over the street, so the first one is the library.
Recreation.
And then the second one's recreation, those get done. I can tell you this happened in Skowhegan. Probably, I was in Rangeley at the time. I did it for 1 year, and up to 1 year to put it all back, so by then it was a mess. Because it had destroyed a bunch of stuff.
and the library and rec's $500,000.
So that would get us 50 cents.
And then all the other departments that Nikki runs that support itself, Strawberry Run, Powder House, Summer Camp,
Yeah,
Soccer.
all that would be gone.
Yeah.
And
Like I said, we're in a very hard spot to try to be fiscally responsible with a growing community,
Mhm.
that we can't control the growing community, we can't control the price, the cost of living, we can't control the cost of goods. We need a town hall, we need a fire department. I don't like being here, but
Tough decision,
I think we need to sleep on it before we keep going any farther,
of course.
myself personally.
We will provide you any information you want or need, and you're welcome to come see anything we have here to understand it.
Yep.
We need to make it as transparent as possible so the public can understand it. That was my goal when I came, one of my goals when I came here. So if you can't understand it, we're not there yet. I gotta make it so that you can blast it off the top of your tongue. So if you need to come in, please come in and I'll be glad to sit with you at the computer. Jen we'll go through the numbers. Melissa, if you wanna come in and spend a couple hours, I'd love to have you come in. We'll get you coffee. We'll point numbers. Well, I gotta make sure you understand first, cause you have to sell it at the town meeting. So anything, no question is dumb, no, it's complicated, it's not like how we run a business, right? So if you pick up 3 more customers, you can get a little more cash. I can't pick up 3 more customers.
I
No,
think
you
that,
make up 3 more customers, we lose money.
One other question that had come across the table on Tuesday was, what about additional insurance for the ambulance? So I reached out to our insurance company and she said for each ambulance, it would be about $1,400, so $2,800 for the 2 ambulances and $1,500 for the paramedics for malpractice,
And that would be in the next. budget.
$4,800.
So that would show up in the
And that's a
26,
year.
27 budget, or the 25, we're in.
Can I get that insurance?
Minimal, yeah.
So that would show up then.
one of the things that, I know everybody else loves budget stuff. Uh, One of the things that I dislike the most about it is I feel like I'm forced to say yes every time, every single time, and I don't like that feeling. Not because of you guys, I just feel like, how can I say no to anything? And I've said it multiple times, even the things that we say no on, they're drops in the bucket. I feel like what you just did is I would love to see if we get swamped and we get voted down at town meeting for this, we need to be able to say, okay, here's B. And this is, your library is gone, or, or you've got a part-time librarian, you've got a part-time rec person that's literally just opening the doors for the people to walk around or whatever, that bare bones where we can cut. I would love to see what that drastic budget would look like, so that,
And
you know,
so, I don't disagree with you, but I don't wanna panic people either.
Yeah.
I don't wanna panic employees, I don't wanna panic thinking that it's this bad, we're gonna close the library. Cause all of a sudden, then people get, the other side of that gets goofy, but if you said to me, I wanna make $1 million cuts tomorrow, I would like, so they would be across the board, rec and the library would be closed. We'd be
That's
done.
half of it.
That's half it. Then I'd start eliminating police officers. I'd 3 or 4 plow truck, the plow truck guys would go. Chief Hamel would go back to part-time, so we'd lose him. We'd go from 12 police officers to 8. I would, and that's not even cutting it, and then I'd continue on further. Probably could go back to code enforcement part-time, I'd eliminate economic development planning, dump that. And, keep going back to till we get $1 million. $1 million is very hard to get to, would be, I could do it for you if you want
I
me
think
to.
what I sort of agree with Tim on I feel like if one, I don't want to task them with something that is very challenging to do and is also not a real thing right now. We are not being faced with being asked to cut the budget by $1 million unless we are as a body asking them to do that. I do think it would be really helpful, similar to how we added in the tax bills, the pie chart of just like, here's where your tax money's going from between school, municipal, county, state. And so when we do get to the point where we have the annual budget meeting, I think some type of visual or something along those lines where we can say, of our budget, X% is essential services or whatever, and like our non-essential services. And so then we could somehow, I guess I see what you're trying to say, and I think we could tell that story without alarming people at the budget meeting. So people can just clearly understand that like X% of our budget, or this department is essential, this department is non-essential. If we cut this department, this is what that may mean, et cetera, without creating alarm.
We should get a good feeling from the public hearing, because we did last year.
Yeah.
We had the public hearing and somebody is my witness, because I don't want to offend anybody, came up to Tim and told him he had no questions because it was such a well-prepared budget. I almost had a heart attack, because that was told Tim last year after the public hearing, if we
Yeah.
have that again this year, we're good to roll.
Yeah. You just.
What?
Forgot it. No, I just. Oh, so to your point, you're absolutely right. So people come in with their tax bills and they say they wanna see me. Okay, come in. My taxes went up. Yep, and I sit down and I go through the whole gauntlet. I show them the pie chart, I explain to them everything we do. Sometimes I walk them through the building, show all the offices, cause they still think we only have 4 offices here. And of the 6 or 8 people that have come in the last 3 years I've been here, every one of them have left thanking me, shaking my hand and saying, I didn't realize, I gotta go down and see the school superintendent. Yeah, you kinda do, because we're only covering this, and so then the last thing I do is I take their tax bill, and according to the pie chart, I run that number and I say, so this is what you owe me, this is what you should be paying me today, the rest of this is county and school.
For all these services that.
And that's when they go, why didn't you explain that to me? Why didn't someone tell me that? And I said, it's in your tax bill, but you don't see it. Maybe that's a point we've gotta make. Maybe that's the point we've gotta make so that, you know, say, listen, if you have a tax bill that's $6,000, that's not all the town. The town's portion of that is only X. And maybe that's what they need to understand. So when you folks as council say, well, we're increasing the budget 7%, but it's not 7% of the total budget. So what are they paying? And the 7% doesn't depict the mill rate, by the way.
No.
Right? So say to them, you know, take your budget. And it's only 44% is municipal government. So of your taxes rather, 44% is what you're owing us. And by the time they get done explaining to them, they're like, oh.
No, that's a good ask, Jeff, because that would be a good thing to bring up, and we could bring that up to public hearing first. To see how it goes, but that would be a good thing to explain, because again, a lot of people don't understand. And everybody, and we heard it tonight, and Melissa's right, it's for the kids, we have to do it, that's the excuse we hear for the school every time. I went through the school, my kids went through the school, I put them here because it's a good school, that's why I stayed here. But at some point, you have to do fiscal responsibility on both sides, we have held our line, every year I've been sitting here. We have held the town line and done without. At the town level, because the school was going up so much and we were trying to keep the mill rate down. We've done it every damn year.
Yeah,
If
that's not
it's
fair.
this year that we're gonna go up because we need to do it, then it's this year we're gonna go up.
We could get for you, or so you folks would have, we could take the current mill rate, right? And put those numbers in, so on a $300,000 home, a $400,000 home, a $500,000 home, a $600,000 home. Here's the tax bill, right? This is what, based on the current mill rate. But of that, this is what the bill is for your municipal services. And show them that breakout. We do that for the budget hearing and the town meeting. So then people are coming, well, but wait. For all our services, this is what it is. This is your portion of the bill.
I feel like we could easily kind of say, okay, just hypothetical, if your tax bill is $1,000, just making this up. If you are paying the town of Southburg $1,000, X%, I'm making this up, $700 of that is gonna go to school. $300 of that is gonna go to the town of South Berwick, and kind of break it down, and then from the stuff that's going to the municipal budget for South Berwick, your money is going toward.
I have those signs hanging around the building already. I
Yeah,
already have the
but
tax
like,
bill.
I think like Jeff, like the point you were trying to make is sort of like, how can we tell the story of like, there's not a whole lot of fat to cut.
Right,
Right.
And it's like, we're at the point where like, if we were to be mandated with some type of big $1 million, more than that cut, essential services are going to be impacted, period.
Oh,
People just need to understand that and be able to see the story of, I'm paying this much per year and X amount of that is going toward the public works department who plows my roads, and going toward this, who does this for me, and all of these essential services, and try to like tell that story, so it becomes a little more obvious that there's not a lot of fat.
Right, so if you hypothetically were paying and came in today and said to me, I have a $6,000 tax bill, and I took the percentage of the municipality, what you would have to pay to us today would be $25.20. That's what you owe for your municipal services. The rest of that's county and school. So there you go. and this is what I tell people, I say, so what we should do is we should have Representative Roberts submit a proposal to the state to have the tax bills broken out, and you come here and you pay your municipal portion, and you have to go to the superintendent's office to pay the rest of it, because they don't get to listen to it. We have to write the check every month for $805,000, and that's what I tell them, when in reality, the 2520 is all you owe me. But I have to collect the school services.
I think we need to try to like draw the line and make sure people clearly understand that this budget here is not the school budget. I think we've done a lot to try to communicate to people that these are two separate things. But I feel like we need to stay in our lane and focus on our budget.
Absolutely, and I don't wanna throw the school under.
Yeah.
But they have to understand, the money gets paid somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely.
The money's going somewhere else. I have to collect it, me, Timothy Pellerin.
Yeah.
Tax collector for the town of Southborough. I have to collect the 6,000. Give me the 6,000.
Mhm.
And they go, oh, it hurts. Yeah, well, there's a half, you know, you only owe me this much, but I'm collecting for everybody.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, Greg Zinza doesn't have to get it at the county level. So, you know, I agree, stay in our lane, but I think
They
they,
know where it's going.
But I think we made huge strides in terms of educating this community on like where, I mean, there's room to go. Of course, there's always room to go. To be better, but I think people generally have a better understanding because we threw this pie chart in on the tax bills. Where people generally have a better understanding of like, oh, this kind of where their money is going, but like within the municipal budget. I think that there's a story to tell of your tax dollars are largely going towards essential services, and if those monies are not collected, then people don't plow your roads.
right. So, and the other part you could do, and point to you, Jeff, so to speak, is you could do a hypothetical on a slide that said, so with a 10% change in order to change the mill rate $1 either way, what would that look like? Well, hypothetically, like you said, if we have to cut $1 million, 500,000 would eliminate recreation and library, and then we still have to find another 500,000. Where would that come from? That's
And that's just to get and then what impact does that have on the community?
all right,
Huge.
you know, and that's what they don't understand. There's no, if you said to me right now, that's why I said to you tonight, you wanna cut the two positions that we haven't staffed yet. And then start there first, because that has the least impact. You cut wages, somewhere along the line, it gets an impact. And this is very tough, this is very hard, that's what, unfortunately, sometimes, congratulations, being a municipally elected official sometimes your job's really hard.
All right, is there any new information we need to digest this evening?
You have everything that you've asked for, we'll get you anything you want, ask for, so whatever you need.
Is there anything you want us to pull together for the next budget meeting?
Do you have a spreadsheet somewhere that shows like what the median, you know, when we're talking about wage adjustments? Do you have already in hand, like, this is what they should be getting if they were in a different town, and this is what we have?
Like, do you have all the data you collected from?
I do, but it's in random places, it's not.
Okay. I was just wondering, cause that might be something where somebody looks and says, well, why would we do wage adjustments? I mean, and then if we could say, well, this is, if we brought everybody up to like just the median of what their position is and whatever you're comparing them to, this is what it would cost us and this is what we're asking for.
So
Can we add that to a slide?
when we do that, here's what we do. We don't just do York County, we go statewide, we take a town that's comparable in size to us, comparable in size by population and by budget, right? Because it doesn't make sense to try to compare them to Sanford, that doesn't. So we have to go, that's where we start. And then we try to gather all that information, how many of those towns, then we try to break out towns that have demographics that don't work for us, like for instance, you know, if you're a town that has 8,000 people, but you're a coastal town, well, that doesn't apply to us because then you have coastal. So we spend all that time going through all that data and paper and figuring it all out, then we pick the town and say, okay, now this is comparable to us, this is, what are those numbers? And then we have to call those towns and ask them and say, or reach out to them and say, so we're comparing our clerks, how long has your clerk been there? Well, if they say the clerk's been there 37 years, okay, that's a different scenario, right? We ask that town out. So all that comparison goes into the wage study stuff. We have it in different places, but we've done, like, each one's done different and.
I think what I was asking for, I think probably just with the squeeze on that one, but that's just interesting, you know. In my mind.
Yeah.
This is what, if we wanted to bring everybody up to where they would be comparable, like just to your average, this is what it would cost us.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably not.
I mean, sometimes it's as much as I call Mike Sullivan or I'll call Dwayne Moore and ask him, say, what are you guys paying? What do you think? And, you know. I try to hit, those are good, like rough numbers for us.
Our HR consultant has given us some spreadsheets too.
Anyone
Anything else I can,
have any questions or requests for these guys? We're gonna meet, what do we have, regular council meeting next Tuesday? Yep. Then a workshop next Thursday if we need it,
I think,
No, we
or
skipped-
no,
Next
skipped it.
Thursday.
We skipped it, okay.
Yeah.
and then it would be the following
The following
Tuesday.
week. Okay,
We'll do 6
Um,
o'clock again.
okay.
you can schedule it on that Thursday if you want to do
If you
something.
want to move it.
No, I'm good with keeping, I'm good
Yeah,
with
pass.
keeping that Thursday after.
Okay.
So we have regular council next week and then I can reach out and touch base with everybody and see where everybody's feeling about budget and if we need the next workshop or.
Well, so to go forward, at some point, I'm gonna need, we don't need to take it to a formal vote, but I'm gonna need a consensus to a number to start putting this all, the
Would-
numbers.
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
When you guys pick an option, then well, I have a bunch more work to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we definitely need the next workshop for sure. So let's all think about it. If we've got questions or any additional information we want. from
Yeah,
Tim
you can
and
reach
Brent,
out ahead of time.
out.
Feel free to come in and please come in if you need to.
So
We'll-
unless we come up with. I can tell you what option I'm gonna go with right now, we're gonna have to read that, so unless we come next Tuesday to the meeting and we're all comfortable with an option and we talk about it there. Then we could give it to Jen and she can start a week early,
That would
and that's no pressure on anybody, if y'all
Yeah.
want another meeting, I'll come. But I know where I'm at with what I have, so I could tell you next Tuesday, but again, if you want another meeting, I'm good.
Do you want me to put, Madam Chair, would you want me to put the budget
On the agenda.
on the agenda and you can do it then, or is that too soon? I'll do whatever you need. I'll get whatever you want.
We just have it on a placeholder on there, and if we all feel good, we can talk about, you know, are we ready to vote on it at that point, or if we're not? You know, it's a real quick.
Yeah, we
It's
can.
not even
we
a
can
formal
just take
vote.
act-
Yeah, it's not a formal vote, it's just a,
not to
it's,
the
you
warrant.
can walk in at 6 o'clock and just say, hey, are you good? Are we gonna go with this option? And if all of us say, yeah, this option with EMS with $1 million is good, we tell Jen, she starts working the numbers, because we can't do anything until she actually lays it all out for us.
So are
We
you,
can-
sorry, are you suggesting we meet before the council meeting or like just during the council? meeting?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make it a little easier, give Jen a little bit more
Yeah.
time, and if we're comfortable, do it. If you guys feel I'm rushing anybody with that topic, then the following week, the following Tuesday, we'll have another meeting. I'm good.
So may I make a suggestion to the council, please?
Sure.
So my suggestion would be for transparency, is put the budget on Tuesday's agenda. Have an open discussion, because remember, this is now public, your council meeting's public. Have an open discussion of what you've learned so far about the budget. What are the numbers? We're talking about staffing and EMS, and have an open discussion in the town council meeting, because the public, we've done this.
Mhm.
But this is who knows about the budget increases right now.
Yeah.
So I would suggest for the transparency of the public, that you have a budget discussion, even if it's 10 minutes, it just says, you don't have to decide anything. If you do wanna make a motion and decide that we're gonna pick this option, but I would at least preface a budget meeting or a budget topic to say, okay, so we've had a couple budget meetings. This is where, you know, we've looked at several proposals. We've made some cuts, you know, the managers proposed cuts here. One of the issues we've talked about is, you know, funding our own EMS service. These are things we're looking at, and give like a quick 5-minute
Yeah,
overview
I can do that, sure.
for the public, because the public has no knowledge right now of this, all of them. Right, so if you wanna get the word out, my suggestion is you have a quick discussion. Now, whether or not you guys chime in and say we wanna add, we're good to make a vote. You can do that, but if not, you don't have to take any action. You can just have an open discussion, say some of the things, these are some of the increases we're talking about, we're looking at. so the public hears it on. So then you can say for transparency, on March 11th, we updated the public on what we've learned so far in our 2 budget meetings. These are potential increases and potential decreases or whatever it could be. That's just a suggestion.
Does that work for everyone? If I can plan to, as you said, kind of give a little bit of a summary of where we're at, and then everyone can kind of weigh in as they're comfortable on Tuesday. And then we just keep the workshop the following week as a placeholder. But then that'll give everybody, no one has to decide right now what they're gonna do next Tuesday. Show up Tuesday with whatever you're comfortable with, but I agree that we should.
I just
Give a
think
little
for
preview.
transparency, if we give a little,
You use that word one more time, I'm chucking you out the window. I swear, right
Okay.
now, out the window.
so for better thought,
Thank you. Clarity, for better clarity.
better clarity, a better view. If we could give a brief overview, that might be helpful,
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely, I can do that.
Alright, has the first budget workshop been made public yet, or?
No,
Tomorrow.
I was waiting till I had the ambulance meeting today out of
Gotcha.
professional respect for them. That we didn't post something until I first told them, so it'll go.
So will both of these workshops be posted before our next council?
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
that's great, then.
Very well.
What's that?
You can fill you in.
He can brief you after.
And just so I'm looking at the right pages, you were sort of doing this a little earlier.
Yeah,
So we're looking, the final rundown page, this is from last time, and then we have the new one, right?
Right.
The new one.
So on the side, you'll see add EMS and then the CIP percentages.
Yep.
I tried to make sure I was giving you the information you needed, yeah.
So on the old one, on Tuesdays, that's still valid options.
Correct, yeah.
these are just additional options I asked.
Right.
Yep.
So that has CIP cuts.
Yep.
Of 109,000,
And
and
then-
they're proportionately added back in different options on the
Right,
today's.
so this is CIP cuts and then EMS or no EMS,
Correct.
and then this is with the add, okay,
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
perfect.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't like.
So
Of
are we
course,
trying to
no,
give
don't
as
throw that
many
one away
options?
So when we do a 50% of the CIP cuts, I'm sorry, I didn't ask this earlier. Was that everything that we cut, adding back 50% of each, or is it, we're gonna cut this one 100%, we're gonna keep this one?
We
Like, was
would
it
look to
selective?
prioritize, I'll have to go back and we would
Okay.
prioritize.
I think it was just for now, just like a scenario, thing,
Yeah.
like if we did 50%,
Gotcha.
figuring out where that would live.
We would go back and prioritize,
Yeah,
for
that-
instance,
I was just curious how much those ads or
Nope,
takeaways
Absolutely.
changed, so. I will plan to do that. I think probably what I'll do is I'll maybe put together just like a quick slide or something to kind of help that conversation Tuesday, and I'll send it to everybody ahead of time if you guys have input or anything. Okay, great. Last chance. Anything else? Anyone have anything else? Budget stuff?
and if you need anything, please ring our phone or come in and see us or do whatever, so we
Absolutely.
can get it
Transparency.
answered. No, for clarity.
And I apologize, I was only kidding about throwing Tim out the window.
No,
I think we can call it for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
thank you.
I don't need Aaron.